Summary.
Addison Jenkins and Louka Moretti have been roommates for 2 years. Addison is a smart petite brunette who lives life as a tomboy, and Louka is self-confessed sex addict. As they enter their junior year of college, the dynamic between the two starts to change. Louka has a different girl every night, but what will happen when Eddie brings home a boy? "Oh my God, you're the girlfriend, aren't you?" "I'm the roommate," Addison says simply. The sound of keys in the front door caused both women to look towards the door. Eddie knew automatically who it was. That, she says as the door swings open, is the girlfriend. Kate Vanderbeek enters the small Boston townhouse with her designer bag over her shoulder. Eddie was used to Kate by now. "Good morning, Kate. Pancakes?" "No thanks, Eddie." Kate looks the blonde up and down before addressing Eddie again. "Don't tell me." "Yup," Eddie replies, popping the P in with that. Kate screams at the top of her lungs. "Louka Moretti, get your arse out here right now."
Chapter 1 Bunny.
Oh my God. You're the girlfriend, aren't you? Edison thinks the voice behind her definitely sounds blonde. If she had to guess, she would say it is Louka's latest conquest. She turns away from the pancakes she is frying to address the voice. "I'm the roommate," Edison says simply. The sound of keys in the front door cause both women to look towards the door. Eddie knows automatically who it is. That, she says as the door swings open, is the girlfriend. Kate Vanderbeek enters the small Boston townhouse with her designer handbag over her shoulder. Eddie is used to Kate by now. "Morning, Kate. Pancakes?" "No thanks, Eddie." Kate looks the blonde up and down before addressing Eddie again. "Don't tell me." "Yep," Eddie replies with an eye roll, and with that Kate screams at the top of her lungs. "Louka Moretti, get your arse out here right now." At Kate's command, Louka Moretti, the 6'2", black curly-haired, shirtless Italian god, walks into the kitchen. Eddie flips a pancake onto her plate and sits at the kitchen bench ready for her morning's entertainment. After all, this is the 4th time this week. "Hey babe," Louka says, wrapping his arms around Kate's waist. She pushes him off, slapping him with her designer handbag. "Don't you babe me again, Louka, seriously. You promised." As the yelling continues, Eddie turns to the blonde standing next to her. "So, what's your name?" she asks. "Bunny," the blonde replies with a giggle, causing Eddie to roll her eyes again. Of course it is. Eddie and Louka have lived together for just over 2 years and are now both going into their junior year of college. Having only spoken via email before they moved in together, they were both shocked by their roommate but have learnt to live with it. Louka assumed at first that Eddie was a guy because of her name, but was pleasantly surprised to find out otherwise. Louka thinks Eddie is incredibly attractive, and because she seems oblivious to that fact and continues to walk around the apartment in practically nothing, Louka spends a lot of his time having cold showers. While Eddie is extremely attracted to Louka, she made it clear from the start that she did not wish to be just another conquest. She is in Boston for college. She wants to earn a degree and leave. That is her plan, and no guy is getting in the way of that. Louka's parents own the townhouse where the two live, and while he didn't need a roommate, Louka used what Eddie paid on rent, the money she got working over summers, as party money. At first, Mr. and Mrs. Moretti had not been keen on the idea of Louka having a female roommate, but once they met Eddie, they fell in love with her. Eddie always found it funny that Louka's parents were worried about her with the trail of women that left his bed every morning. The sound of the landline phone ringing quietens the fight, and Eddie moves to answer it. "Hello, Edison speaking." "Edison, darling, how are you?" Mrs. Moretti's thick Italian accent immediately brightens her day. "Good morning, Mrs. Moretti, I'm fine, how are you?" Eddie smirks at Louka, who, at the sound of his mother's name, is pushing Kate and Bunny out of the townhouse. She holds back her laughter as to not interrupt Mrs. Moretti. "Dante and I are missing our baby boy and thinking of stopping by for a visit." "A visit? That sounds wonderful. I'm sure Louka will be thrilled. Would you like to talk to him?" Eddie offers. Louka, who has re-entered the house without his fan club, is waving at Eddie, signaling for her to not pass him the phone. "I think he is around here somewhere," Louka continues to mouth. No, but Eddie ignores him. "Here he is." "Luciano, it is your mum," Eddie says, happily passing him the phone. Louka runs a finger along his neck, making it clear that he will get her back for this later. Eddie rolls her eyes and goes back to her pancakes as Louka greets his mum. "Mama, come vano le cose." "Oh, you good boy." Speaking Italian, Louka finds it hard to listen to his mum as his eyes are on Eddie. He would never wanted to admit his feelings to her, but he had a hard-on just looking at her. He watches as she pops the last bit of pancake in her mouth and her tongue darts out to lick her bottom lip. He is going to be needing yet another cold shower. He watches as she take her plate to the sink. Eddie is still wearing her pajamas, which consists of one of Louka's t-shirts and her panties. He loves the way she looks in his clothes. The t-shirt is just long enough to cover her sensitive area, but without a bra her chest leaves nothing to the imagination. Eddie signals to him that she is going to get changed before kissing his cheek and strolling into her room. He watches her hips sway as she disappears before turning his attention back to his mum. "We are going to come tonight, son. I'll bring lasagna." "Okay, mum, sounds great." Italian, "Va bene, sai vediamo stasera mamma." "Ciao, my beautiful boy." Hanging up the phone, Louka walks straight into Eddie's bedroom. "Ma and Pa are coming for dinner tonight. he says, sitting on her bed as she pulls on her jeans. He looks away as he talks, trying to avoid glancing at her gorgeous body. Ma said she is bringing lasagna. Oh yum. How did you get Kate and Bunny out of here so quick? Bunny, was that seriously her name? Luca mentally slaps himself for banging someone named after a woodland creature. That is what she told me. Where do you find these women? It is all this, babe. Luca smirks, pointing at his shirtless chest. Eddie finds herself looking for too long. She tells herself to look away before grabbing a sweatshirt to pull over her bra. Besides, she knew it was only a one-night thing. And Kate, Kate is easy. Promised to buy her lunch and some jewelry, and she is eating out of my hand. Kate is for the nights when I don't score anyone else. It is good to have a backup. That is sick, Luke. You love me, Eddie. Luca throws a pillow at her, which Eddie catches and returns in his direction with force. Do you remember what you said to me last Christmas? What did I say? Oh, that's right, you must have been drunk. I don't get drunk, Luke, that is you. You're the lightweight, remember? I'm Italian. Italians can handle their alcohol. Then you must be the only Italian in the world to fall down drunk after one round of shots. It was absinthe. Excuses, excuses. Anyway, what are you in here besides watching me get dressed? Do you need a lift to campus? Eddie's phone buzzes on the nightstand. She moves to check it. Parker Collins, 9:03 a.m. I'm outside. Your chariot awaits, lady. Oi Jenkins, I'm talking to you. Luca says, waving his hand in front of Eddie's face. Do you need a lift? I'll just get dressed and we can go. Now it is all good. A friend is picking me up. You'll be back for dinner. Yep. Eddie says, popping the pea. She swings her bag over her shoulder and rushes out of the townhouse. She spent enough time waiting around for Luca Moretti by Luke. Luca walks over to the window in Eddie's room, which has a clear view of the street. He watches as she hops in the passenger side of a pickup truck. Eddie leans over and kisses the driver. Luca's hands ball into fists. Who the hell is that kissing my girl?
Chapter 2. She must be good in bed.
Eddie has been seeing Parker for roughly 4 weeks. Of course she didn't dare tell Luca. Parker is a sweet guy, a little nerdy but cute with a hot body. The two have a lot in common, especially since they are both studying engineering. Eddie is one of the only girls in the course at Boston College. She often wonders why, but at the same time it doesn't really bother her. Guys are easier to get along with anyway. Edison and Parker hit it off straight away, joking and flirting. He asked her to coffee and she accepted almost immediately. Since then they have been on about 6 dates and text each other every spare minute. Eddie finds Parker interesting. Not that Luca isn't interesting. Luca is smart. He is actually studying medicine, which some people are shocked to find out. The difference between Parker and Luca, however, is that with Luca he only has sexual relationships, something Eddie definitely isn't ready for. Parker is simple. Parker is no stress. Parker is Parker. I still can't believe you live in such a fancy area, Parker says as they drive towards campus. I really want to see inside. The place looks brand new. You really don't want to see inside? My roommate is a slob, Eddie says quickly. She is messy, huh? I don't believe it, Parker laughs. Yes, so Eddie hasn't told Parker that Luca is a guy. She has mentioned Luca several times, but Parker just assumed that Luca was a girl's name. It has got to the point where Edison is too scared to correct him. She knows she will have to eventually, especially if she ever wants Parker to spend the night. Maybe Luca will go out of town. Are you busy tonight? Maybe we can have dinner. Oh, Luca's parents are in town. They are having dinner with us. I'd blow them off, but they are lovely and kind of own my house. Tomorrow then? Yeah, tomorrow. Parker and Eddie hold hands as they walk through campus to their first lecture of the day. Once in the lecture hall, Eddie pulls out her notepad and pen, eager for today's bundle of knowledge. Parker does the same, and the two sit in a comfortable silence waiting for the lecture to begin. Halfway through the professor's speech, Eddie's phone buzzes in her pocket. The roommate, 10:48 a.m. Where are you? Eddie, 10:48 a.m. Are you drunk? The roommate, 10:49 a.m. I don't think so. Where are you? Eddie, 10:50 a.m. I'm in class, you idiot. What the hell do you want? The roommate, 10:50 a.m. Edison Jenkins, where are your manners? Eddie, 10:51 a.m. Luca. The roommate, 10:52 a.m. Mom ordered a cheesecake from the bakery in Boston Common. Can you pick it up? Eddie, 10:52 a.m. Why can't you? The roommate, 10:53 a.m. Because I'm going to be busy before dinner. LOU. Eddie, 10:53 a.m. You already do. The roommate, 10:54 a.m. Love you too. Eddie lets out an exaggerated sigh and Parker turns to look at her. Everything okay? He asks, putting his hand on her thigh. She notices straight away that her leg doesn't tingle under his touch and she turns to face him. I'm fine. Just my lazy roommate. Any chance we can stop at Boston Common before you drop me home this afternoon? Yet sure, why? I have to pick up a cheesecake that Luca's mom ordered. Luca sat at the coffee shop on campus with Kate opposite him. She was whinging to the waiter about her fat-free, half-almond milk, half-soy, Arabic bean coffee as Luca sat back and people watched. A waitress passed and winked at Luca and he made a mental note to slip her his number. Arg, some people are useless. Kate sighed as she sipped her poor excuse for coffee. Maybe if you drank normal coffee people wouldn't get your order wrong. Luca mutters under his breath. Don't, Luca, I'm still angry at you about this morning. Luca rolls his eyes and rests back in his chair, crossing his arms over his chest as Kate starts her lecture. He tunes out, not bothering to listen to her ridiculous screeching. He looks out across the quad and spots a familiar petite brunette. He sees Eddie's toned ass stretching through her skinny jeans, remembering the black lace panties she saw this morning hiding just underneath the denim. Luca sits forward in his chair as Eddie wraps her arms around a strange guy. He realizes straight away that it is the guy from the pickup this morning, and once again he feels his hands ball into fists. The guy is taller than Eddie, but that isn't hard. He has blonde surfer hair, and as Luca takes a sip of his coffee, the guy presses his lips to Eddie's. Luca chokes on his coffee, accidentally spitting some on an unsuspecting Kate. Oh my god, Luca, what the hell? Kate follows Luca's eye line to where he is looking out over the quad. Oh, it is Eddie. You didn't tell me she had a boyfriend. She doesn't. Luca snaps. Well, clearly she does. Oh, I know who that is. That is Parker Collins. He is in Gamma Kappa Pi. He is a frat guy. Only the hottest frat guy on campus. I wonder what he is doing with your roommate. I mean, Eddie is so. Well, I guess she must be good in bed. Kate laughs and Luca's face hardens. Eddie is innocent. Eddie is still a virgin. At least he thinks she is. Luca looks at Kate as she badmouths Eddie, and he realizes he has finally had enough of her. He gets up to leave, not bothering to put money down for the bill. She had used him for his money for too long. Luca Moretti, where the hell are you going? Feet. Home. You haven't paid. Her voice comes out as a panicked squeal. This one is on you, Kate. Luca, if you walk out of here we are done. Fine by me, Luca says, walking out of the cafe without looking back. It is time for a change.
Chapter 3 I Miss You, Kara.
Before Edison can put her keys in the door of the townhouse, it swings open to reveal a cheerful-looking Mrs. Morty. Ciao, Edison. Mrs. Morty, I'm so sorry I'm late. Nonsense, you are here and that is what matters. Come in, child. Luca spots Eddie as he comes from the direction of the kitchen. Where have you been? It took me longer than I thought to find which bakery you were talking about. Did you know there are 5 bakeries in the common? Eddie snaps, wondering to herself why he couldn't have gone to get the dessert himself. Mrs. Morty spots the cheesecake in Eddie's hands and immediately turns to her son. She slaps him over the back of the head. Luciano Morty, I told you to collect it. My dispes, mama, Luca says, dropping his eyes to his shoes. He knows apologizing in Italian will get his mother off his back. Eddie smirks at him as he makes eye contact with her. Take the dessert into the kitchen, Luca. Mrs. Morty orders as Mr. Morty enters the room. 𝑏uonasera, he says, pulling Eddie into his arms. Well, her Italian isn't fabulous. She has been around the Mortys enough that she picked up a fair bit. 𝑏uonasera, Mr. Morty, she says, smiling at her surrogate parents. Do you both mind if I just have a quick shower? I have been at college all day. Of course, child. Mrs. Morty smiles. The lasagna needs another 30 minutes in the oven and we are still waiting for Marcello. Eddie's ears prick at the name of Luca's older brother. Mark is coming. See, now you go. We will be here. Eddie heads off to her room before she can shut her bedroom door. Luca slips in behind her. Thanks for daubing on me. Your own fault. How do you figure that? Too horny to pick up a cheesecake. So, what really took you so long? He asks curiously. Class, you know where I learned stuff. And since you are the one with the car, I had to get a lift. Eddie says sarcastically. Luca is hit by a sudden wave of guilt for not thinking about how she would get to the common. Who gave you the lift? Just a friend. Luca, your brother is coming. Your parents are waiting for me and I smell like shit. Can you let me shower? You could never smell like shit. Luca steps closer to her, taking in the fact that she actually smells like apples. It was the first thing he noticed about her when she moved in. Well, that, and her gorgeous body. Eddie, who seems oblivious to the closeness of their bodies, rolls her eyes. Do you need help? Luca asks, taking another step towards her. You know, perv. Get out. Stop avoiding your parents. Eddie steps into her bathroom, closing the door in his face. Before Luca leaves her room, he hears her phone buzz. Walking over to the bed, he picks it up to see a string of messages from Parker Collins. The frat guy. Parker Collins. 5:47 p.m. Thinking of you. Wish I could see you tonight. 5:47 p.m. Enjoy dinner with your roommate. 5:48 p.m. I'll see you tomorrow. I can pick you up if you like. 5:48 p.m. Don't forget you promised me a date. Luca feels his anger rise through him. Desperate to keep Eddie away from this guy, he does the only thing he can think of. He replies on her behalf. Eddie, 5:54 p.m. Luca's parents have something planned for tomorrow night. Just came up. I don't need a lift tomorrow. I'll just see you there. Parker Collins, 5:56 p.m. I'm sure you'll make it up to me. I'll let you get back to your dinner. Text me later. Good night, Eddie. XX. Luca hears the shower stop. Knowing Eddie is a stickler for the 2-minute water-saving shower, he throws her phone back on the bed and heads back out to his parents. He sits down next to his dad on the couch. Eddie is a good girl, Luca's dad says, staring at his son. I know, Dad. Are you guys still in town tomorrow? Maybe we could go out to dinner. Eddie too. Yeah, why don't you ask her when she comes back out? Luca says, smiling, and his dad nods. A knock at the door signals the arrival of his older brother. Luca hurries to answer it. He swings the door open to reveal Marcello Morty, or Mark as everyone calls him. I was hoping to be greeted by the lady of the house, Mark says with a smirk, stepping inside. Mark. Eddie's voice rings out as she runs from her bedroom to leap into Mark's arms. Her hair is still wet from the shower and she has on short denim shorts with a small black singlet. Mark wraps his arms around her, smirking at his younger brother. He is the only one who knows of Luca's feelings. Eddie, my girl. How are you, gorgeous? Better now you're here. I've missed you. She presses a kiss to his cheek as he sets her back down on her feet. Is that my handsome Marcello? Mrs. Morty calls from the kitchen. Ciao mama. Mark calls as he enters the kitchen to find his mum. Why don't you hug me like that? Luca asks as he watches his brother leave the room. Are you jealous? Eddie says with a smirk. Come here. She wraps her arms around his waist and squeezes as hard as she can. Is that better? Can't breathe. Losing air. Dying. Eddie releases him and punches his arm. I can't win with you. She rolls her eyes. Finally, Luca says, throwing his arms in the air, it has taken me 2 years to get that through your thick skull. The five sit down at the dining room table to a spread of homemade lasagna, garlic bread and salad. After saying grace, everyone digs in. We are going out to dinner tomorrow night, Mr. Morty announces, and Luca smiles at his dad, simply taking his suggestion. Oh Mr. Morty, I have plans. Nonsense, Eddie. Mark says, don't you want to hang out with me? I miss you, Kara. Eddie misses Mark too. He lived with Luca and Eddie while he finished college. He moved out a year ago and Eddie misses her surrogate big brother. She fights an internal battle. Finally she decides that dinner will be fine. Hopefully Parker will forgive her. Eddie looks over at Luca, who nods his head with a small smile. Eddie nods at Mr. Morty. Okay, I'll come. Magnifico.
Chapter 4 That's a Boy's Name.
Edison relaxes back on the couch and Mark wraps his arms around her. Luca fights the jealous rage inside him as he watches her snuggle into his older brother's chest. Mark notices Luca's discomfort. What's wrong with you? He asks, eyebrows raised. Luca busies himself with the TV remote, flicking through the channels. Nothing, he says, mutters. Mark knows very well what the problem is, but he seems to enjoy pushing Luca's buttons. So, are you staying? Eddie asks Mark. Is your bed available? Mark asks, his fingers drawing circles on Edison's stomach. You, no. Eddie pulls out of his arms, whacking him in the face with a cushion. You can have your old room. Ah, I guess that will do, Mark says, pulling Eddie back into his side. There is a knock at the door and Eddie checks the time on Mark's watch. Who the hell visits at 1 in the morning? I'll get it. Luca makes his way to the front door, swinging it open to reveal a girl. A girl Edison had never seen before. She is blonde with massive boobs and a ditzy smile on her face. Luca greets her and the girl immediately jumps into his arms, causing Eddie to roll her eyes. Luca heads up the hall with the girl attached to him. Breaking away from the kiss, he turns to his roommate and brother with a wink. So, we are just going to have fun. Mark chuckles before whispering in Eddie's ear. I'm sure she is a genius, with a heart of gold. Eddie finishes. She leans forward to the coffee table, grabbing her phone, remembering to say goodnight to Parker. She sends him a quick message, not expecting a reply because of the late hour. Who are you texting? Mark asks, peeking through over her shoulder. No one, she replies, hiding her phone screen from his prying eyes. Do you have a boyfriend, Miss Jenkins? No, we are just dating. For how long? About a month. What about Luciano? What about him? He has a parade of women and Kate. I'm just his roommate. The words hurt as Eddie says them. Mark often wonders why his brother continues with the casual sex when he feels the way he does about Eddie. He will never understand what goes through his little brother's head. With Mark staying over, Edison whips out the Pop-Tarts, knowing they are his favorite. As two pop up from the toaster, she flips them onto a plate, taking them and a steaming cup of coffee into Mark's room, or the spare room as it is now. Rise and shine, she says, happily placing the plate and cup on the nightstand. Mark's eyes flutter open as he smells the coffee. He sees Eddie and smiles. Is this heaven? Morning. I have class today, but I will see you tonight. Thank you for breakfast, beautiful. You are welcome. How long you staying for? I thought I'd go back to New York on Tuesday, so 4 days. Perfect. Eddie kisses his cheek before heading back to the kitchen. She places her own Pop-Tarts in the toaster and pours herself a cup of coffee. Oh my God, you're the girlfriend, aren't you? Edison sighs, and without even bothering to turn around, she replies. No, I'm the roommate. Oh, thank God. As her Pop-Tarts pop, she places them on a plate, taking a seat at the counter. She studies Luca's latest conquest and can't help but feel a little jealous. You have Parker. You don't need to be jealous, she reminds herself. Sorry if we were loud. The blonde giggles. Not as loud as some, Eddie mutters under her breath. So, what's your name anyway? Oh, I'm Janie. The girl replies with an outstretched hand. Well, that is better than Bunny. Eddie, she replies, shaking Janie's hand. That's a boy's name. Already smarter than the last one. Eddie rolls her eyes as a shirtless Luca enters the kitchen. Janie squeals at the sight of him and he smirks. He walks over to the coffee machine, not before slapping his conquest on the ass. She giggles hysterically and Eddie tries desperately to distract herself with her Pop-Tarts. Morning, Ed, Luca says, pressing a kiss to her cheek. Edison feels the area under his lips tingle as it feels like a fire pulses through her. I'll get ready and we can go, Luca says, ignoring the blonde ogling him. Eddie pulls out her phone to check if there is text from Parker. Nothing. She thought maybe he would pick her up. Okay, I'll grab my bag. Luka smiles to himself, looking forward to the 15-minute car trip. The blonde whose name he has forgotten is still staring at him. So, I'm going to get dressed, you just let yourself out. When Eddie returns to the lounge room, Luka is sitting on the couch waiting for her. Where's Janie? She asks. That's her name, he exclaims, and she rolls her eyes. Seriously, where do you find all these women with absolutely no self-respect? She was a waitress at the coffee shop I was at yesterday with Kate. Speaking of Kate, where was she this morning? I missed my breakfast entertainment. I dumped her, he says, shrugging his shoulders. Eddie's mouth gapes. Luka and Kate have been a thing since freshman year. Granted, they weren't in the most committed relationship, but it worked for them. Why? She just said some stuff that pissed me off. Like what? Stuff. Like, leave it. No. Yes. No. Edison. Luciano. You're annoying. I know, I learnt from the best. Eddie pokes her tongue out and Luka rolls his eyes. What did she say? Nothing. But you said that. Drop it, Eddie. Let's just go.
Chapter 5 Waiting for Someone.
How was your dinner? Parker says as our tutor hands out our practice test. Delicious. Mrs. Morty makes the best lasagna ever. I swear I love Italian food. Oh, and Luca's brother Mark is in town and staying with us, so that is great. Do I need to be jealous of Mark? No, he is like my big brother. He used to live with us before he grew up and got a real job. What does he do? Working his way up Wall Street. Parker nods, turning his attention to the piece of paper in front of him. Eddie can't help thinking that she is too boring for a guy like Parker. Can a guy really be satisfied with just hand-holding and kisses? Edison finishes her practice test before anyone else. Parker looks angry when she hands it to the tutor before him. She sits back in her seat, pulling out her phone, scrolling through Facebook. A post from Kate Vanderbeek catches her eye. It is photo of Kate with her arms wrapped around a guy with the caption, "Best night of my life." Clearly a dig at Luka. Eddie laughs to herself, wondering if he has seen it. Parker sighs audibly next to her, struggling with the last question. Eddie is about to offer him some help when her phone buzzes. Marcello Morty. 10:34 a.m. Thanks for the Pop-Tarts, gorgeous girl. 10:36 a.m. You are very welcome. 10:37 a.m. Blow off your afternoon classes and come with me to Carson Beach. Eddie. 10:40 a.m. Marcello Morty, what would your mother say? Marcello Morty. 10:42 a.m. She'd say do it. I'm her favorite son. Come on, Eddie, for old time's sake. Eddie. 10:42 a.m. Mark. Marcello. 10:43 a.m. Per favor, Bella. Eddie. 10:44 a.m. Pick me up at 1 p.m. at our spot. Marcello. 10:46 a.m. Gladly. What has you smiling? Parker whispers in Eddie's ear. She takes her attention off her phone. Just people's stupid Facebook posts, she says, surprised at how quickly she was able to lie. Their tutor dismisses them and Parker and Eddie walk to their next class. So, I was thinking maybe you could come over tomorrow night. Eddie says quietly. To your place? Parker asks, shocked. Well, yeah, it is a so Luka will probably go out and I thought maybe I could cook and we could have the place to ourselves. Eddie tries to put on a confident face. She knows she has to move forward with Parker. She can't get hung up on her man-whore roommate who will never look at her the way she wants. Eddie locks eyes with the guy in front of her. The guy that likes her. So, what do you say? What time? Parker asks, wrapping his arm around her waist. After their physics lecture, Eddie manages to fake a headache. Parker offers to drive her home, but she insists on walking, saying the fresh air will do her some good. Parker presses a chaste kiss to her lips before Eddie turns and heads towards her meeting place. She stands under the large oak tree at the corner of the quad. Eddie waits for 5 minutes and is ready to give up when a pair of big calloused hands cover her eyes. Miss me? A husky voice asks from behind her. It takes her only a second to realize that voice doesn't belong to Mark but his sex god little brother. Luciano. Mio Dio. I love it when you say my full name. Eddie turns around to face him. What are you doing here? I could ask you the same thing. Are you waiting for someone? Eddie. Mark's voice call over to her. Mark joins them under the tree. I'm sorry I'm late, Bella. Luka feels his anger bubble to the surface. Fredolo. He growls out, addressing his brother. Oh, Italian, I think I'm in trouble. Mark says, laughing with Eddie. I'm taking this beautiful lady to Carson Beach. Would you like to join? Luka glares at his brother. The anger subsides when Eddie rests her hand on his forearm. Can you blow off your afternoon classes? She asks, looking up at her through her long eyelashes. I have a test. Luka say bluntly, you guys have fun. Prender sicura lei. Mark smiles at his brother's possessiveness. Certo. He replies quickly with a nod. Eddie looks back and forth between the brother as they converse in Italian, remembering how little she understood when they all lived together. Good luck on your test, Eddie says, wrapping her arms around Luka in a quick hug. She then takes Mark's hand, leading him to the car park. Ciao. She calls out, causing Luka's lips to tug up into a smile. One day I'll tell her how I feel, he tells himself before turning his back on the vanishing figures and heading to his class. Luka, Mark and Eddie arrive at the restaurant together. They are led to a table at the back where Mr. and Mrs. Morty are already waiting. The couple stand as they approach. Mrs. Morty pulls the three of them into a hug, causing her husband to chuckle. "I bambini. Kara, you are suffocating them." Mr. Morty pulls his wife off the three of them, pointing to the chairs. "Sit, sit." As they enjoy their dinner, Eddie thinks about the date she promised Parker. How on earth is she going to get Luca out of the house? Even if she got Parker, only is she ready for what is expected? Eddie found herself staring off into space when an elbow collided with her stomach. "What?" Eddie turns to Luca, looking for a reason. Her ribs were now bruised. Luca nods his head towards his mother, who was looking at Eddie as though waiting for an answer. "Scusa. Oh, is my boy teaching you Italian?" "Good boy, Luciano. I just asked if you are enjoying your dinner, Kara." Eddie looks down at her half-empty plate of gnocchi. To be honest, she couldn't even remember eating it. "Yes, it is lovely," she said, smiling up at Mrs. Morty. Mark leans over to her, whispering in her ear. "What is with you?" "Just thinking," Eddie says with a shrug of her shoulders. "Can I help?" Mark offers with a smile. "Actually, do you think you can take Luca out tomorrow night?" Mark raises his eyebrows but slowly nods. "I'll see what I can do."
Chapter 6 Stay the Night.
"Fine," Luca yells as he flops down on the couch next to Eddie. Eddie looks at him with a confused expression. "What is wrong with you?" "Mark wants to go out tonight." Luca whines and Eddie gasps, pretending to be shocked. "What? Do you think your brother will ruin your game?" she teases. "No," Luca says, poking his tongue out. "I just don't feel like it." "Why? Maybe I want to stay here with you." "Huh, yeah sure." "I'm boring, Luca. You tell me that most days." "I do not. You told me I was boring half an hour ago when I was studying." "You were studying." Luca smirks and Eddie rolls her eyes. "Mark is hardly ever in town. I think you should go." Eddie offers encouragingly. If Luca is out of the house tonight, Eddie will finally be home alone with Parker. She tries to convince herself for the umpteenth that this is what she wants. Eddie finds it hard as she gets distracted looking at Luca's bare chest. Does he ever wear clothes? Mark walks into the lounge room and, much to Luca's dismay, squeezes himself in between the pair. "So, when are you guys going out?" "We will be leaving here at 7. Mark says with a smile. "What are you going to do tonight?" Luca asks Eddie, leaning over his brother. "You know me. I'm going to study and then probably pass out watching Gilmore Girls." Eddie says with a laugh. After the boys leave, Eddie finishes preparing by dinner. Taking out 2 sticks of Mrs. Morty's homemade garlic bread from the freezer and placing them in the oven, she then turns her attention back to the big pot of pasta. "Pasta? Well, I do live with Italians." Turning off the heat, she gives the pasta one final stir as someone knocks on the door. Trying desperately to contain her excitement, she controls herself with a little skip to the door. Swinging the door open, she reveals a smiling Parker. "Hey you," he says, holding out a bottle of wine. "Oh wow, we are so grown up." Eddie teases. "Mom always said to never arrive empty-handed, so here." As Eddie takes the bottle off him, Parker steps forward, pressing his lips to hers. Eddie chuckles under his lips. "If you keep this up, I won't let you in." "Really?" Parker asks against her lips before plunging his tongue into her mouth. Eddie is shocked at his boldness but recovers quickly. Pulling away from the kiss, she takes his hand and leads him further into the house. Parker takes in his surroundings with a whistle. "This place is impressive." "So it is just you and Luca?" Freshman year, Mark lived here too, and for the next 3 days Mark is back in his old room. "And Mark is Luca's older brother?" "Yup. Marcello Morty." Parker nods his head, slowly taking in the information. He looks towards the kitchen. "Something smells delicious. I hope you like pasta." "I'm afraid I learnt to cook from my Italian roommates." "Pasta is perfect." Luca gazes around the club at the plethora of possible hookups. Mark normally hated this scene, yet tonight he seemed too eager. "What is the real story? Why did you want to come out?" "I want to hang out with my little brother." "Really?" "Yes, now sit here and don't grope anything and I'll get you a drink." Mark leaves Luca alone on a stool of a dry bar. A redhead in the crowd catches Luca's gaze and he offers her his signature smirk. She signals for him to join her, pretending to pull him towards her with her imaginary rope. Luca stands just as Mark comes back with 2 glasses of amber liquid. "No you don't. Sit down." Luca takes his glass, sculling the contents. "So, what do you want to do then?" he asks, staring at his big brother. "Talk about Edison." Mark offers with a shrug. "What about her?" Luca snaps, not ready for a lecture. "When are you going to tell her?" "There is nothing to tell." "Cut the crap, Luciano. You are attracted to her. Not only that, I'm pretty sure you love her." Mark explains and Luca rolls his eyes. "If you told her, maybe you find out she feels the same." "Thank you for dinner," Parker says, quietly cupping Eddie's chin. The two move to the Eddie's bedroom, laying back against her headboard watching the TV. "You're welcome," Eddie breathes out as her lips part. Parker takes her invitation, claiming her lips. Her tongue darts out to lick his bottom lip and his lip part. Their tongues battle for dominance, with Parker finally winning out. Parker slides his hands down Edison's petite frame. He moves on top of her, his hands finding her hips as he presses his pelvis into her. He slips one hand under her top where is find her covered breast. A moan escapes Parker's mouth as he massages her breast in his hand. A fire ignites within him and his lips move with fury against Eddie's. Placing her hands against his chest, she pushes Parker back. "Parker." "Yes, babe. I can't." Parker moves off her and Eddie swears she can see disappointment in his eyes. We don't have to do anything yet, Eddie. Parker says, but his tone is dry. I'm sorry. I like you a lot. I'm just not ready. Eddie looks at the hands as she speaks. Parker moves off the bed. Maybe I should. His eyes dart to the door and Eddie grabs his hand. Stay the night, she say quickly, trying to lose her nerve. You're sure? Parker questions and Eddie nods. The two sit back on the bed deciding on a movie. Parker stretches his arm around her and Eddie relaxes into his side. Luca's head is pounding when he wakes up. He mutters a few Italian curses under his breath as he rolls out of bed. He shouldn't have drank so much. He lifts his nose to the air. Pancakes. Definitely pancakes. It was times like this that he knew he really did love Eddie. Eyes half open, he walks down the hall to the kitchen. Bella ragazza, I love the smell of your pancakes in the morning, Luca says as he reaches the kitchen. A foreign voice reaches his ears. Who the hell are you? The voice belongs to a half-naked blonde guy, who was standing in his kitchen flipping pancakes. Cursing in Italian, Luca glares at the intruder, happy for the height difference between them, with him standing at least 5 inches taller than the stranger. It's my house. Who the hell are you?
Chapter 7 I thought your roommate was a girl.
Pancakes reach Eddie's nose as she wakes. Pancakes. Assuming Mark must be cooking, she smiles, slowly getting out of bed. She heads to her wardrobe, finding clothes for today. Changing her panties and t-shirt, she is grabbing her jeans off the floor when Luca's loud voice echoes through the townhouse. Who the hell are you? Suddenly the events of last night come back to her. Parker stayed the night. She looks at the empty left side of her bed and mentally slaps herself. Abandoning her jeans, she runs out of her room in a pair of white cotton panties and one of Luca's band tees. Luca, she yells as she reaches the kitchen. The two men are having a standoff, staring at each other unblinking. Eddie touches Luca's forearm. Luke, calm down. Eddie steps beside Parker, who immediately wraps his arm around her waist. She cringes slightly as he pulls her into his side with force. Luca looks between the pair and Eddie notices sadness in his eyes. It only stays for a second before anger takes its place. Mark enters the kitchen, oblivious to the tension in the room. What the hell, people? Luca ignores him, still staring at Parker. Without lowering his gaze, he talks to Eddie. Who the hell is this Edison? Luca, this is Parker. Parker, this is my roommate Luca Morty. Parker turns to Eddie with a confused expression on his face. I thought your roommate was a girl. Parker's revelation causes Mark to fall to the floor in a fit of laughter. Luca steps over his brother. Leave. Luca growls at Parker. Eddie steps in front of Parker as though protecting him. Luca throws his hands in the air. 𝐎𝒂𝒏𝒂𝒂 Eddie rolls her eyes at her roommate. In English, Luciano, I want him out, Edison, Luca says quietly. Eddie grabs Luca's wrist, pulling him away from Parker. Parker, they smell great. I'm just going to talk to Luca for a second. Marcello, get off the floor and introduce yourself, Eddie says calmly as she pulls Luca from the room. She drags him into her bedroom. Okay, what the hell? I have woken up to countless strange women in this apartment and don't say a word. I bring home a guy and you lose your shit, she say, pulling on her jeans. Without thinking, Luca steps forward and takes advantage of their close proximity. Cupping Eddie's face, he runs his thumb over her bottom lip. Eddie gasps under his touch. She goes to speak, but Luca stops her. SHHH Kara. Luca dips his head so his lips are almost touching Eddie's. Eddie knows what's coming. Her brain is telling her to push him away, but there is small part of her that desperately want her lips on his. Luca's eyes lock with hers before flicking to look at her lips as though asking for permission. Bella. He breathes out. The two spring away from each other as the door opens. Mark appears in the doorway, smirking at his brother. And what's happening here? Eddie takes another step back from Luca. Nothing, she says, moving towards the door. Luca grabs her wrist as Mark speaks. Parker is looking for you, Eddie, Mark says, and Eddie pulls out of Luca's grip. Thanks, Mark. Eddie leaves her bedroom. As she walks down the hall to the kitchen, she imagines what would have happened if Luca and her were not interrupted. She shakes her head at the thought. Parker's smile greets her as she enters the kitchen. Everything okay? He asks with a concerned look. Eddie nods. So, pancakes. Parker puts a plate of pancakes in her hands and the two sit at the kitchen counter. I'm sorry, Eddie says after a few minutes. For not telling you Luca was a guy. I shouldn't have assumed. I should have corrected you. He likes you, Parker says with a shrug. Eddie stares at him, shocked. She shakes her head a few times. No, he has just never seen me with a guy, especially not in the apartment. Parker nods his head at Eddie's comment, but she can see he doesn't believe her. Eddie places her hand on his thigh and rests her head on Parker's shoulder. She does it to convince Parker of her feelings, but part of her know it is also to convince herself. What the hell did I just walk in on? Mark asks his brother. Luca pushes past him out of Eddie's room. Ignoring his brother, Luca walks into his room. Luciano spill. I know what I saw. Well, you tell me then. You need to tell her how you feel. Why, she has that guy now. Did you look at him? He didn't have the look of a guy who had just had sex. Parker staying the night was innocent. Luca tried to picture what his brother was talking about. He wished it was true. The thought of Eddie with some guy plunging into her made him physically ill. Luca moves to the kitchen. His plan, to befriend Parker to show Eddie that he can be a good guy. Passing the kitchen, he sees Eddie with her head on Parker's shoulder and his hands ball into fists. Changing his direction, he pulls on his hoodie that was on the couch and heads for the front door. "Where are you going?" Mark asked with Luca halfway out the door. "Out." Luca snaps, pulling his phone out of his pocket. He dialed and pressed the phone his ear. "What do you want, Luca?" Kate's voice sneered through the line. "You fancy some fun?" Luca replies with his signature smirk evident in his voice. "Be here in 10 minutes. I want you naked and waiting." Luca orders into the phone. As he hangs up, he hears Kate giggle. This is just what he needs. A distraction.
Chapter 8 The Hell She Is.
Luca's gaze takes in the unconscious body next to him. Kate is out cold after being thoroughly fucked. That's all Luca needs out of Kate. Sex, a distraction, something to take his mind off the fact that Eddie isn't his. If only he had claimed her sooner. If only he had told her of his feelings. Muttering a few curses in Italian, Luca carefully slides out of bed without waking Kate. He finds his clothes and quietly gets dressed. He pulls his phone out of his pocket, quickly glancing at it to see a missed call and 3 messages from Eddie. EDDISON. 10:36 a.m. Way to pull a vanishing act. Where did you run off to? 10:37 a.m. I want to talk about last night. 11:49 a.m. Get your arse home. Your mum is here. Luciano. 12:12 p.m. K. EDDISON. 12:13 p.m. K. What the hell sort of message is that? Luciano. 12.14 𝒂𝒊𝒂𝒚. Edison quickly looks away from her phone. Cara, did he answer you? Mrs. Morty looks at her expectantly. Yes, he is on his way, I think. Eddie excuses herself to get a drink. She leans against the kitchen counter and can feel the tears stinging her eyes, threatening to fall. Bella, you all right, Eddie? Eddie passes Mark her phone. My Italian is not great, but does that means what I think it does? Mark offers her a sad smile and Eddie's tears fall. I'm sure he didn't mean it, Eddie. I have to get out of here. Apologize to your mum for me. Eddie. Eddie chokes back her tears as she moves towards the front door, desperately to escape. Mrs. Morty calls out to her as she leaves through the front door without looking back. Not knowing where to go, she heads in the direction of campus. Luca pushes through the apartment door to be embraced by his mum. He has to concentrate as she rambles in Italian about Mark and his dad and the family and life. Her last sentence rolls around in his head even after his mum leaves. Edison. 𝒂𝒑. She ran away. Luca tosses his phone on the couch after his 10th call to Eddie goes straight to her voicemail. His stomach growls and he heads into the kitchen to find something to eat. Grabbing a packet of crisps, he turns to head back to the couch when something hard collides with his nose. Cazzo. Luca blinks away tears from his eyes and comes face to face with his attacker. His own brother. What the hell, Marcello? Dio, sei veramente un idiota. You're talking about Eddie. Certo, of course. You heard her. She brought a guy home. She doesn't know how you feel about her. You can't hold that against her. It is not like she had sex with him. I'm guessing Kate's bed was comforting. How did you? You are my brother. I know you better than anyone, well except maybe Eddie. Where do you think she ran off to now, Luca? I bet you pushed right into the arms of that blonde dick. Luca doesn't even realize he fell asleep until he hears keys rattling in the door. Luca checks his phone for the time. Just after 3 in the morning. Mark sits bolt upright beside him on the couch and the two fix their gaze on the door. It swings open to reveal a very wobbly Edison. Where have you been? Luca asks, standing from the couch. Eddie. Edison walks straight past him to the kitchen as though he didn't even exist. He notices that she is very unstable on her feet. Are you drunk? Eddie's eyes flick over him as her face shows amusement. Luca turns to his brother for assistance. Mark steps forward. Bella. As soon as Mark speaks, Eddie's eyes lock with his and she smiles. Marcello. She wraps her arms around his neck, giggling for a second before her whole body goes limp in Mark's arms. Eddie hears arguing. Men arguing. To her it sounds like they are right next to her. She tries to open her eyes but her eyelids feeling heavy. She listens to the voices argue around her, concentrating hard to understand what they are saying. You need to get out. Eddie recognizes the voice as Luca's. I care about her. She is my girlfriend. Parker's voice replies. Eddie cringes. She definitely wouldn't call herself Parker's girlfriend, they were just casually dating. The hell she is. Luca's voice yells. Non faccia rumor. Va bene. Mark's voice speaks in Italian. Eddie mentally curses him. How am I supposed to understand now? Questa è la mia casa. Penso che glielo debba dire tu. Tell her what? Parker says. Eddie realizes it must be in response to one of the things spoken in Italian. You speak Italian? Mark's shocked voice resonates in Eddie's ears. I can understand a bit. So, tell her what? Parker asks again and Eddie holds her breath waiting for Luca's answer. Nothing. Luca's voice growls out as Eddie's eyes start to flutter. Why are you all yelling? She says quietly and the 3 men snap their heads in her direction. Parker is the first at her side. Babe, are you okay? He asks, grabbing her hand and placing a kiss on it. Eddie moves to sit up and feels as though her head is splitting in two. Rubbing her temples with her fingers, she looks up at Parker. I'm just hungover. No one has died from that, right? She manages a laugh and Parker's lips tug up into a smile. Big arms wrap around her neck and she looks down the ebony curls. Bella, Cara, never again. Mark's voice is loud with his mouth right next to her ear. He places a kiss on her forehead. I'm fine, Marcello. Chill out. Eddie's gaze flicks around the lounge room of the townhouse, finally landing on Luca. His lips pressed into a thin line, the two stare intensely at each other before Eddie is the first to look away. Eddie squeezes her eyes shut for a moment and she hears the front door open and shut. Her relationship with Luca had changed and she isn't sure why. She knew one thing though, without Luca there is a hole in her heart.
Chapter 9. You started this, Luke.
Eddie. Kate's familiar high-pitched squeal causes Eddie to cringe. Cup of coffee in hand, Eddie spins around to face the noise. Kate, I thought you and Luca. He came to his senses. Begged to have me back. Eddie couldn't really picture Luca begging, but she had realized recently that she didn't know him as well as she thought. Mark had returned to New York 3 days ago and ever since the apartment had been silent with Luca and Eddie hardly speaking one word to each other. Eddie still isn't sure what she had done to piss Luca off, but she isn't one to dwell. If he didn't want to be friends anymore, then she would just make her peace with that. So, I saw you on campus with Parker Collins. What is going on there? We are dating, Eddie says, playing along with Kate's conversation. Oh my god, that is so cool, he is hot. Eddie smiles at Kate's comment. It is true, Parker is attractive. But the guy who truly holds her heart walks into the kitchen moments later. Luca's shirtless chest holds Eddie's gaze for a few moments before her subconscious tells her off. Eddie watches Luca wrap his arm around Kate's waist, pulling her into his chest. The landline phone rings next to Eddie and she answers it automatically. Edison speaking. Cara, how are you? A familiar Italian accent makes her smile. Good morning, Mrs. Morty. I'm fine, thanks. How are you? Luca's eyes watch Eddie with caution as she talks to his mum. Magnifico. When will you and Luciano be arriving in New York for Thanksgiving? Eddie felt herself panic. Every year she attended the Mortys' Thanksgiving dinner, but this year it was the last place she wanted to be, especially since getting there meant 4 hours in a confined space with Luca. I actually have a lot of studying. I don't think I'll make it. No, nonsense. I will come and visit on a different weekend. I'll pass you on to Luca. Crazy Cara. Have a lovely day, Edison. Luca takes the phone off Eddie in silence and presses it to his ear. Ciao mama. Luciano, when are you arriving for Thanksgiving? Wednesday ma. The day before, probably around midday. Luca watches Eddie rinse her coffee cup and head back to her room, hips swinging. Then he looks down at Katie checking herself out in her phone and sighs loudly. And why isn't Edison coming to Thanksgiving? She is busy ma, leave it alone. No, you bring her. The girl has no one, Luciano, we are her family. Fine, bye ma. Hanging up the phone before his mother, Luca knew he would get an earful later, but right now he couldn't listen to another lecture. I have time before class. Want to go again? Kate asks with a wink. Luca contemplates kicking her out just as Eddie rushes to the door. Swinging open the front door, she reveals Parker, who greets her with a chaste kiss. The two leave the house hand in hand, and as his anger flares he pulls Kate into his room. Parker drops her outside her building. At the end of the day she presses her lips to his. They say their goodbyes and Eddie heads inside. The smell of roasted tomatoes and garlic hit her as she walks in the door. Curious, she goes to the kitchen to investigate. Eddie sees Luca stirring a large pot over the stove. She has missed this. Eddie and Luca would cook together a lot before Eddie pissed him off without realizing it. Eddie thought this had gone on long enough. She is sick of the silence but isn't sure the best way to approach him. Eddie tries her best to creep out of the kitchen but kicks her toe on one of the cabinets, causing her to release a strong breath of air. Shit. Luca whips his head around to face her, his eyes full of worry. He rushes to her aid, automatically sitting on the floor cradling her foot. Eddie, are you okay? It is just my toe, she says, pulling her foot out of his grasp. I'm fine. Luca locks eyes with her and she smiles. If I'd known stubbing my toe would have got you to talk to me, I would have done that days ago. Luca stands up and wraps his arms around her, pulling her into his chest. I missed you. Eddie pushes him away, eyeing him with caution. You started this, Luke. I know I'm an idiot. I'm cooking to earn you forgiveness, he says, gesturing to the pots and pans on the stove. Homemade gnocchi, just like Ma taught me. You hate gnocchi, you don't, he says with a shrug. So I told Ma we would be in New York midday Wednesday. Does that work for you? I already told you, Mum, that I'm not going. Luke, are you having Thanksgiving with him? Parker, no, he will be in Miami with his family. So, you are free. No, Luca. Eddie, come on. I can't just pretend everything is fine. I want my roommate back. But you hurt me, Luca, when I didn't even know what I did wrong. You have to come. Where else are you going to go? Eddie takes a step back at Luca's question. His eyes widen after he said it, immediately regretting it. It is true, Eddie has no family, none that she knows of anyway. She was in foster care for as long as she could remember. She was adopted when she was 12, but then the couple fell pregnant and sent her back. She felt like the unwanted Christmas puppy in February. Mrs. Morty always said that she wished she had met her before. It was strange their paths never crossed. The Morty's family home is in Queens and Eddie had been shipped from foster home to foster home all around Brooklyn, New York and Queens. She had been lucky to get a scholarship to Boston College and used most of her savings on the bus trip to Boston and her first rent payment to Luca. Eddie leans back on the kitchen counter with tears threatening to spill when Luca's arms came around her again. Eddie, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that. Please come to Thanksgiving. If you don't come, Mom might maim me so bad I'll never give her grandchildren. I don't think. Please, I'll do anything. Luca, please, I'll come. Thank you. If you tell me why you are angry at me.
Chapter 10 You're a Jerk.
I don't understand why I couldn't come and meet your parents. Kate's voice whines through the Bluetooth speakers of the car and Luca watches Eddie roll her eyes and put her headphones on. He had finally convinced Eddie to come with him, but he hadn't been completely truthful. He told Eddie that the reason he was angry was because he didn't like how much time she was spending with Mark. He claimed he felt left out when in fact the real reason was her relationship with Parker. Kate, you went to Vermont and didn't invite me. How is that different? You want to meet my parents? Kate asked excitedly and Luca mentally slapped himself. No, I'm just saying. No, mio Dio. Kate, listen, I just mean I don't think we are ready for either of us to meet each other's parents. But you took Eddie with you. Luca looks over at his passenger. Eddie is resting back in the chair with her eyes shut and her foot is tapping the beat of whatever she is listening to. Eddie is dressed casually today. She has on a baggy hoodie paired with black leggings and boots. The leggings cling to her toned legs and Luca finds himself having to tear his eyes away to look back at the road. Eddie knows my parents. She comes every year. Exactly. What? Kate, I don't even know what that means. Goodbye, Luca, Kate says before she hangs up. Luca slams his hands on the steering wheel cursing in Italian and Eddie peeks at him through her eyelashes. Luca looks over and catches her gaze. He playfully taps her arm and she removes her headphones. Hey, I thought we were back to normal. Why are you ignoring me? I wasn't. I simply didn't want to listen to your girlfriend. She isn't my favorite person. Well, your boyfriend isn't mine. Parker is not my boyfriend. We are just casually dating. Does he know that? I don't need you judging me, Luca. I'm not Kara. I just didn't think you were the type of girl to give away the milk for free. Luca states, earning an eye roll from Eddie, who turns to look out the window. Come on, we used to tell each other everything. How do you feel about this guy? He is nice and I like spending time with him. And we have a lot in common. Like, we are both study engineering. So he is your study buddy. No, he is. He is just Parker. Can he make you wet? Excuse me. I'll take that as a no. You are jerk, Luciano Moretti. 3 hours later, Luca stops the car on the curb outside the Moretti's family home in Queens. Eddie hadn't spoken to Luca since calling him a jerk and she was eager to escape the car. Mark rushes to the car to greet them. Crazy Dio, my two favorite people. Mom has invited yet another girl. Sorry, woman, of childbearing age who is perfect for me. Please help. Neither Luca nor Eddie respond to Mark and he is left looking between the two. Okay, what the hell is with you two? I thought you sorted your issues. Your brother decided to put his nose into my sex life. Eddie snaps as she grabs her small suitcase from the car before stopping in front of Mark. What sex life? Mark asks with a smirk. Eddie narrows her eyes at the oldest Moretti brother before storming inside the house. As always, Eddie is given Luca's childhood bedroom for her stay and the brothers share a room. Eddie is sitting cross-legged on the bed with a textbook in her lap when someone knocks on the door. Eddie calls for the person to come in and Mrs. Moretti enters the room and sits on the edge of the bed. Good evening, Kara. Hi, Mrs. Moretti. I think it is about time you called me Maria, don't you think? Mrs. Moretti offered and a small smile played on Eddie's lips and she nodded. Where you could always call me Ma like the boys. Thank you for inviting me. Maria, you are family, Kara. Eddie nods sadly and looks down in her lap. She feels Maria's arms wrap around her. I always say to Dante that I wish we had met you sooner. We would have given you a proper home. Maria kisses Eddie's forehead and Eddie feels tears roll down her cheeks. I'm not sure what Luciano did. How did you? Mother's intuition. Again, I'm not sure what he did, but I know that my son cares for you. Luciano may even love you. Eddie shakes her head at Maria's words. Luke will never see me that way. Besides, I'm dating someone and Luca he has a girlfriend. Kate, yes, Marcello mentioned her. If Luciano was serious about her, I believe he would have bought her home long ago. This boy you are seeing, is it serious? Eddie sighs. He is nice and seems to like me. To be honest, I'm not ready for serious. I need someone who loves you. Maria finishes for her and once again tears roll down Eddie's cheek. Oh, Kara, please don't cry. Dante and I love you like you are our own. We want to see you happy. If you decide you like this boy, we will get to meet him. Yes, see. Eddie replies with a smile and Maria chuckles at her use of Italian. Can I help you in the morning? With Thanksgiving dinner? See, I would love your help. Get some sleep, Kara. Do not worry about your trouble with Luciano. He will prove himself to you.
Chapter 11 Marry Me.
Chapter 11 Marry Me. Luca sat in his childhood lounge room with the rest of the men of his family. His dad, brother, uncles and cousins all crammed in to watch Thanksgiving Day football. Being Italian, when their wives or mothers gave them an instruction, they were expected to follow it. Luca tried to enter the kitchen to talk to Eddie and he was yelled and cursed at in Italian by his aunts before his mother dragged him by the ear to the lounge room. He wants to make things right. He needs his roommate back even if it meant seeing her with another guy. Since he wasn't allowed to talk to her in person, he took to texting her. Luciano, 10:48 a.m. I was thinking we should have dinner. EDDISON, 10:52 a.m. We are about to. It is called Thanksgiving. Luca smiled at her sarcasm. Luciano, 10:54 a.m. No, when we get home. You, me, Kate and Parker. EDDISON, 10:56 a.m. No. Luciano, 10:57 a.m. I'll be good, I promise. 10:58 a.m. No sex comments. 10:58 a.m. And I won't tell him how you cry at the end of Marley and Me. EDDISON, 11:01 a.m. So did you. Luciano, 11:02 a.m. Please Ed. EDDISON, 11:03 a.m. Okay, but you are cooking. Luca didn't get a chance to reply as a voice snaps him from his phone. Snacks, gentlemen, Eddie says, entering the lounge room with 2 bowls of chips. She is greeted with a chorus of yes and thank you before her gaze meets Luca's. Her lips tug up into a small smile and he mouths his reply to her, deal, before blowing her a kiss. She turns away but he notices the blush on her cheeks as she returns to the kitchen. Before dinner is served, the women enter the lounge with wine glasses in hand, toasting the festive season. This year the Moretti family are hosting some neighboring families as well. The doorbell rings and a smile drifts across Maria's face as she goes to the door. Mark comes up behind Eddie, bending down to place his chin on her shoulder. Marry me. What? Eddie laughs. Please, save me from my mother's matchmaking. You might like this girl. Eddie offers. I never like the girls. Mark grunts. Kiss me. No. Come on, then she'll think I'm taken. No, cause then your mother will be planning our wedding. Is that such a bad thing? I'm a catch. No. Mark puts his hand over his heart, feigning disappointment. Oh, Cara, you wound me. Marcello, Maria calls from the foyer. Your bride awaits. Eddie teases, pushing him towards the door. She laughs as she watches Mark sulk towards his mother. The girl at the door looks nervous. She is pretty and very Italian with the gorgeous long dark hair and the olive skin. She is pushed forward by her own mother and Mark leads her into the dining room. Men, please lead your ladies in. We will eat. Maria instructs, and one by one the Moretti men and their neighbors take a lady by the hand and lead her into the dining room. Eddie smiles at the tradition as she feels warm breath on her neck. Cara, Luca's voice appears in her ear and she feels him press a kiss to her cheek. May I escort you? He asks, offering his hand. Eddie takes it and looks down at the floor, trying to hide the tomato red color covering her face. Like always, Eddie is seated between the brothers, only this time Mark has his date to his left. Did you study last night? Mark says, pathetically making conversation with Edison instead of talking to the gorgeous girl next to him. Eddie ignores him and leans around, extending her hand to the girl. Hi, I'm Edison Jenkins. The girl smiles shyly. I'm Sienna. Sienna Romano. It is great to meet you, Sienna. What do you do? Sienna looks at Mark with a smile before answering. I work at my family's restaurant. But I'm studying online. What are you studying? Mechanical engineering. No way. I'm studying engineering at Boston College. We will have to talk later. Definitely. Mark slowly picks up a conversation with Sienna and Eddie turns away, happy that she helped. She locks eyes with Maria at the head of the table, who give her a nod of thanks before turning her attention to Luca. So, what will you make? Scusa. For this dinner we are having what will you make? Pasta. What else? Luca replies with a smirk. I want biscotti too. Alright, I'll pick some up from the. No, I want you to make it. What? Otherwise no dinner. Fine. Luca leans closer to her and his lips brush her ear. You are impossible. He whispers and she feels herself shiver. After the humongous meal, the family and their guests retire into the lounge room, and once again the attention is turned to the football, the second game of the day. At halftime, brandy is passed around and as a tradition everyone says one thing they are thankful for. People thank their partners, food, God, football, good health and their children. Second last is Luca. He commands the attention of the room. I'm thankful for the laughter in my life. Without laughter the world would be sad. So thanks to the people who make me laugh, he says, smiling at Eddie and squeezes her hand. Eddie blushes crimson as the room turn their attention to her. Cara. I'm thankful for family. She says quietly, smiling at Maria. I'm thankful to finally have a family. The Morettis smile at the surrogate daughter, cousin, niece, and Mark pulls Eddie into his arms. She squeals as he messes up her hair. Okay, I take it back. Eddie cries out and the room fills with laughter. Nope, no taking it back, Bella, you love us, Mark says, tickling her. Luca joins in with his brother and Eddie is pinned down by both of them. Luca and Mark smile at each other before both kiss her forehead. They sit back and Luca pulls Eddie onto his lap. He pushes her hair back behind his ear. And we love you. Amore mio bello. Eddie leans back into Luca's arms, feeling a warmth spread through her. She gets lost in her thoughts. We are in for one awkward dinner.
Chapter 12 Special Guests.
Kate arrives an hour early for dinner and is hanging over Luca as he cooks, so to avoid any awkward public displays of affection Eddie is hiding out in her room. She had been wearing sweatpants and a singlet until Kate arrived in a bodycon dress. Eddie decides she has to step up her game a little, so found an outfit in the back of her wardrobe. It wasn't quite as classy as Kate, but it was Eddie. Leggings and a baggy t-shirt dress. Eddie lays back on her bed after applying a thin layer of makeup. Eddie hardly ever wears makeup, and she certainly wouldn't have bought it for herself, but it was a gift from Maria last Christmas. After Thanksgiving, Eddie was sad to leave the Morettis, but on the plus side, Christmas was only a few weeks away. Eddie stands and walks over to the mirror once again to check out her look. She sighs. She grabs her phone off the nightstand and takes a quick selfie before sending it to Mark. _EDDISON. 6:34 p.m. Do I look okay? Marcello. 6:36 p.m. Always Bella. 6:36 p.m. What is wrong? EDDISON. 6:37 p.m. I'm worried about dinner. Kate arrived early looking like a freaking supermodel. Marcello. 6:37 p.m. You look beautiful, Eddie. I'm sure Luca will think so too. EDDISON. 6:38 p.m. You mean Parker? Marcello. 6:38 p.m. EDDISON. 6:39 p.m. Good night, Marcello. Marcello. 6:39 p.m. Good night, Cara. Have fun. As Eddie puts her phone back on the nightstand, she notices Parker's pickup parked on the curb. Quickly leaving her room, she races out through the lounge room to the front door. When she opens it, she finds Parker about to knock. Wow, you're good, he says. He presses a chaste kiss to her lips before handing over a bunch of flowers, lilies. These are for you. Thank you, Parker, they are beautiful. Eddie smiles at him, noticing a bottle of wine in his hands. Who is the wine for? Parker looks over her shoulder and Eddie turns to see Luca and Kate standing in the doorway of the kitchen. This is for Luca. It is red. I hope that goes with dinner. Luca looks at Eddie before flicking his gaze to Parker and stepping forward to accept the wine. Thanks, it's great, Luca says, a smirk forming on his lips. Kate shows Parker into the lounge room. I'm going to finish dinner, and Eddie, we will get a vase for your flowers. Everyone follows Luca's directions as Luca and Eddie walk into the kitchen. Luca grabs a vase out from under the sink, filling it with water and handing it to Eddie. Eddie does her best to arrange the flowers in the vase. She smiles at them and Luca snorts behind her. What? Eddie turns to face Luca, who has not taken his eyes off of her. You changed. So, you look nice. Luca tucks a stray hair behind Eddie's ear. His fingers brush Eddie's cheek and she feels her skin heat and tingle. She looks up at him through her lashes. Thanks. You hate lilies, Luca states, turning his head back to the pasta. No, I don't. Oh, I'm sorry, I must have you confused with my other roommate. Shut up, okay? They are beautiful and I have never had a guy buy me flowers before. Eddie hisses. She grabs the bottle of wine and 4 wine glasses and heads into the dining room. Kate, Parker, would you like a glass of wine? Yes, please, Parker says as he and Kate walk in from the lounge room. I'm just going to check on my man. It is so sexy that he can cook. Right, Eddie? Sure, Eddie says with a fake smile as she hands Parker a glass of wine. The 4 sit down and enjoy dinner. Parker sits next to Eddie with his hand on her thigh. She can't help but notice that her skin doesn't tingle like it does when Luca touches her. Luca sits with Kate on his left. Luca eats, not taking his eyes off Eddie and Parker as Kate finds excuses to touch him. As they finish their pasta, Eddie moves to collect everyone's plates. Luca notices how Parker sits back and watches her as she moves, his eyes resting on her ass. Luca stands from his seat. Sit down, Ed. I'll get it, he says quickly. Luciano, you cooked, it is the least I can do, Eddie says, hurrying into the kitchen. When Eddie returns, she sits down at the table to find Kate staring at her. Kate, is something wrong? You called him Luciano, Kate states, but it sounds like a question. Yes, why, that is his name, Eddie says, simply looking from Luca to Kate. Kate shifts her gaze to Luca and his lips press into a thin line. Eddie rolls her eyes. They have been together for 2 years and she doesn't even know his name. So Luca, should I get dessert? Eddie says, trying to break the now awkward silence. Luca opens his mouth to reply when there is a knock at the door. I'll get dessert, you get the door. Eddie nods, walking out of the dining room to the front door. The person knocks again just as Eddie lets the door swing open. Edison. A high-pitched squeak comes out of the blonde standing in front of her. Bunny, you remember? Bunny squeals, wrapping her arms around Eddie, pulling her into a hug. Is Luca here? Eddie steps back from Bunny with a smile. Several thoughts run through her head. She could tell Bunny no and save Luca the trouble, or she could invite Bunny in for the after-dinner show. Eddie looks back to the dining room and then back to Bunny. Taking a deep breath, and she makes her choice. Eddie takes Bunny by the hand, leading her inside. Just before they reach the dining room, she calls out to her roommate. Luca, you have a guest.
Chapter 13. He is just my roommate.
Luca's eyes widen as Eddie walks into the dining room with a familiar-looking blonde. The blonde is grinning at him and his eyes lock with Eddie, who is smirking. Bunny, Luca says, tentatively glancing around the room looking for a way to escape. Maybe the floor will split open and bury him alive. He can only hope. Hi baby, I thought I'd come by and see if you want to have some fun, Bunny says, still smiling, and Eddie drops into her seat, taking a bite of biscotti and spoonful of homemade ice cream. Baby, Luka, Kate screams from beside him and Luka cringes. Kate, you make me look like a fool. Constantly. Me. Are you kidding me? Luka and Kate take their fight to Luka's bedroom and Bunny is left standing in front of Eddie and a very confused Parker. Well, I guess I'll go. Bye Edison. Tell Luka to call me. Sure thing Bunny. See you. Eddie says with a smile and Parker looks over at her with his mouth open. What the hell? Luka cheats on Kate. She cheats on him too. It is just their relationship. Eddie replies with a shrug. It had become the normal for her to see them fight. Don't worry, they'll be having angry make-up sex soon. Eddie, this is not normal. Your roommate, he is a jerk. Eddie presses her lips into a thin line. Parker, you don't know Luka. You're defending him. Eddie, he cheats on his girlfriend. She cheats on him too. That doesn't make it right. Why are you judging him? You shouldn't be living with him. Why not? The Morettis, they are ... they are the only ... they are like my family, Parker. They aren't your family and Luka ... the way he looks at you. I'm not dating Luka. I'm dating you. Do you have feelings for him? No. Eddie answers a little too quickly. No Parker, he is just my roommate. I'm telling you not to judge him, not because I have feelings for him but because you don't know him. Parker lets out a big breath and stares at Eddie. I don't. Parker, please. Eddie takes Parker's face in her hands and presses his lips to hers. His tongue darts out to lick her bottom lip. She opens her mouth, giving him access, and his tongue plunged into her mouth. Parker pulls away and he looks at Eddie with a smile. You taste like vanilla, he says with a chuckle, and Eddie feels her cheeks heat. How about we finish our dessert? She says, and Parker runs his hand along her thigh. I can think of something better. Do you want to stay the night? You sure? Eddie wakes at 3 in the morning when her phone buzzes. She feels Parker's arm wrapped around her waist. Without waking Parker, Eddie reaches to the nightstand to grab her phone. Unlocking it, she sees a text from Luka. Luciano, 3:02 a.m., busy. Addison, 3:03 a.m., sleeping. Luciano, 3:03 a.m., no you aren't. 3:04 a.m., come to my room. Addison, 3:04 a.m., what about Kate? Luciano, 3:05 a.m., she left hours ago. I got sick of her. Addison, 3:05 a.m., Parker is here. Luciano, 3:06 a.m., I know. Come to my room. I want to talk. Eddie places her phone back on the nightstand. Carefully she lifts Parker's arm off her body. She places her pillow under his arm and Parker hugs it tight. Quietly she creeps out of her bedroom, shutting the door behind her. She makes her way up the hall to Luka's room and knocks softly on the door. Hey, Luka says as he opens the door. His eyes travel down Eddie's body and a smirk plays on his lips. Thanks for dressing up. Eddie takes a quick look at her outfit. Her arms quickly make to cover her singlet and panties, but Luka chuckles. Don't cover up, Kara. You're a perv. Yet you still love me. Why did you wake me up if you aren't going to let me in? I feel like popcorn. Want some? Luka steps past Eddie and heads towards the kitchen. Eddie struggles to keep up, taking 3 steps for his one. The two sit in the lounge eating popcorn and watching reruns of The Friends. Eddie sinks back into the couch with her feet on the coffee table and Luka lays his legs along her lap. Eddie sees sunlight coming in through the window and turns to her roommate. Luka, I'm going back to bed, but I wanted to talk to you. We have been sitting here for like 3 hours and all you have said is that I have the same hairstyle as Rachel. Well, you do. Luke, fine, whatever. Eddie pushes his legs off her lap and leans over to him, giving him a kiss on the cheek before standing and walking back to her room. Luka pulls his phone out of his pocket and groans at the time and the fact that there are 3 messages from Kate. Vanderbeek, 3:58 a.m. Luka, I'm sorry I left like that. 4:10 a.m. I miss you. 5:34 a.m. Come find me today. I'll make it worth your while. Luka sighs before writing a new message to his brother. Luciano, 6:35 a.m. I need help. Marcello, 6:41 a.m. Piss off. Luciano, 6:42 a.m. Kate and I had a fight. Marcello, 6:43 a.m. I say good riddance. Luciano, 6:44 a.m. Marcello, 6:44 a.m. She wants to make up but I want Eddie. Marcello, 6:45 a.m. The solution is simple. Tell Ed how you feel. Luciano, 6:45 a.m. I can't. 6:46 a.m. Parker stayed the night again. Marcello, 6:46 a.m. Prove that you're better. Luka fall back onto the couch reading and rereading Mark's last message. Prove that you're better. He turns his attention back to the television just as Ross is explaining to Rachel Phoebe's theory about how she is his lobster. Yes, Edison is my lobster.
Chapter 14, New York.
Eddie lays next to a sleeping Parker and all she can think about is Luka. Almost 3 years they have been roommates. Eddie has been attracted to Luka since the day she met him. He is, after all, an Italian god. The body, the accent, but Eddie knew she never stood a chance. Luciano Moretti is a playboy, a man whore, whatever you want to call it. Eddie knew they were better as roommates, as friends. She didn't want to get her heart broken. Parker's body moves next to him and her gaze falls on his face as his eyes flutter open. Good morning, beautiful. Morning, Eddie says with a smile. Parker is a reliable guy and he is attractive. He is good for her. A good match. Eddie phone buzzes on the nightstand. You get that? I'm going to see what I can scrounge up for breakfast. Parker says, and with a kiss on the forehead he leave her to her phone call. Eddie presses the phone at her ear. Bella, Mark, see gorgeous. How are you this fine morning? I'm fine. What is up with you? Nothing, just checking in on my favorite girl. What about Sienna? No one is better than you, my amore. Are you calling for a reason? Someone is snappy. Do you have company, Miss Jenkins? Yes, Parker is here and I would rather not leave him alone with your brother. If you dated Luca this wouldn't be a problem. Mark, first your mum now you. Luca doesn't date. And if he did he certainly wouldn't date me. Look, can we talk later? Addison, I'm sorry. Don't worry about it. I'll call you later, okay? Eddie says as she walks out of her bedroom. Ciao Bella. Ciao. Eddie puts her phone down on the kitchen bench next to where Parker is sitting. Luca has his back to them cooking breakfast. Listen to you speaking Italian. Parker says, nudging her with his elbow. I had to learn something. Living with brothers who constantly speak it, it was a challenge I could never understand. That was the point, Cara. Luca says, turning to face her. Morning. He leans over the kitchen bench placing a kiss on her cheek. Morning. Eddie says, trying desperately to hide her blush from Parker. Was that Mark? Luca asks, turning back to the food. Yeah, he was just checking in. Luca dishes out bacon and eggs and the three eat in silence. I have to go. Parker says, standing up and putting his plate in the sink. Why? It is Saturday. I thought we could hang out. Study group. Parker says quickly. He leans down pressing a kiss to Eddie's lips. Sorry, I'll text you later. Okay, well bye. Eddie says, but Parker is already out the door. Eddie turns back to Luca. I guess you are going to meet Kate. We are over, I thought I told you that. Face it, Luca, you and Kate are never actually over. She asked you to meet her today, didn't she? Doesn't mean I'm going to. Fine, whatever. Eddie collects their plates and moves to the sink. She begins rinsing them and placing them in the dishwasher. You want to go to Queens? Luke, that is like a 4-hour trip. We will stay the night, come home tomorrow night. We have the whole weekend. We were just there. So, my parents love you. That is true, Eddie says with a smirk. So yeah, okay sure, yes. Luca lifts Eddie in his arms swinging her around. What are you doing, you crazy oaf? Put me down and I'll go pack. Luca laughs, putting Eddie back down on her feet, and she runs into her room. While packing the essentials for her weekend, her phone buzzes. Parker, 9:43 a.m. Sorry I couldn't hang out today. Catch up tonight. Addison, 9:44 a.m. Can't, sorry. I'm going to New York for the weekend. Parker, 9:44 a.m. Since when? Addison, 9:45 a.m. Since you had study group and I had a free weekend. Parker, 9:46 a.m. Who are you going with? Addison, 9:46 a.m. The roommate. Staying with his parents. Parker, 9:47 a.m. Have fun, I guess. Call when you get there. Addison, 9:48 a.m. Will do 20. Eddie gets changed and finishes packing about 15 minutes later. She heads out into the lounge room. She knows that Luca went out to get snacks for the road trip and so isn't expecting him back anytime soon. Addison gasps as she stares at the coffee table. There, in a vase, rests her favorite flowers, pale pink peonies. Next to them was a small pink card, which reads, Beautiful flowers for my beautiful roommate. You deserve only the best. Il mio amore per sempre e sempre. Luciano X. Luca knows her better than anyone. She can't quite understand the Italian but knows feet mio amore, feet is my love. Eddie feels tears form in the corners of her eyes but holds them back, quickly blinking them away. She smiles down at the card as the front door swings open. Eddie looks up to find Luca smiling at her. You ready, Cara? Eddie nods, worried she won't be able to form words. Luca grabs her bag out of her hand. He holds it in his left hand and takes her left hand in his right. He leads her out of their townhouse into his car. The two sit in silence for the first part of the drive until Eddie looks over at Luca. Thank you for the flowers. You are very welcome. Luca replies, smiling down at her briefly. Eddie rests back in the passenger seat, curling her legs up underneath her. Luca moves his hand so it is resting on her thigh and Eddie feels her breathing stop. Luca's finger trace circles on her thigh and Eddie can't help but notice how comfortable things are with him. What a surprise. Maria Moretti is shocked when she opens the door to find her son and his roommate standing on the porch. Ciao mama, we hope it is okay to come for the weekend. Of course, of course. You are welcome anytime, Maria says, hugging them both. I will make a big dinner tonight. Oh Maria, you don't have to go all out. Maybe we could cook for you. Nonsense, Cara. It is my job to take care of my babies. What are you going to do today? It is only 3. Maybe we could go into the city. Eddie asks, looking at Luca. Luca will take you shopping. Maria offers. Oh no, I don't have any money. I cancelled my shifts this week to study. Luca will pay. Luca will what? Luca asks, looking at his mother. Luciano, you get a monthly allowance from your father that is enough to buy a small country. The least you can do is take Addison shopping. Luca rolls his eyes, resulting in a smack in the back of the head. Okay, come on Eddie. The pair take the subway and end up right in the center of New York, standing on 5th Avenue. Luke, this is way too much. Surely there is a less expensive street. Eddie, Mom was right. Let me do this. I love that your parents are worth so much yet they still live in an average-sized house in Queens. Pa says it reminds him where he came from. Sparrow Industries may be a multi-million-dollar company now, but Dad started it in the basement. Will Mark take over from your dad? That's the plan. He is the one with the business and accounting background after all. Plus he just knows the family business. Luca stops outside Tiffany & Co., and Eddie's mouth drops. Let's go in. No. Come on Eddie, it can be your Christmas present. Luciano. No arguing. Luca buys Eddie a classic Tiffany & Co. sterling silver necklace. The saleswoman asks if her would like it wrapped, but he insists on putting it on Eddie now. Luca, you said Christmas present, you should wrap it and put it under the tree. I want you to wear it now, Cara. Thank you. She presses a kiss to his cheek before they exit the store hand in hand. As they walk further up Fifth Avenue, Eddie's phone rings. Pulling it from her pocket, she presses it to her ear. Hello, Eddie, it's Parker. Are you okay? You never called. Oh Parker, I'm sorry. I completely forgot. I'm fine, we got here about an hour and a half ago. We caught the subway into the city. Can we FaceTime? I want to see where you are. Eddie presses the FaceTime button on her phone and Parker's face appears on her screen. Luca moves closer to her, glaring at the screen. Hey babe. Oh hi Luca. Parker, I hope studying is okay, Eddie says. We are on Fifth Avenue. Parker smiles at Eddie but then narrows his eyes at the screen. Since when do you wear a necklace?
Chapter 15. Will you lay with me?
Parker wasn't impressed that Luca had bought Eddie such an expensive gift. Eddie knew he was angry but had done her best to calm him down and promised to call him before she went to bed. Luca and Eddie end up on Wall Street to find Mark's building. Mark is the one who spots them first as he was making his way to the subway. Addison. He calls out to her, causing Eddie and Luca to search for where his voice had come from. It is something out of an old movie as Eddie's eyes find Mark's and she runs towards him. Luca is jealous of the relationship his brother has with Addison, but they have always been like that. Eddie wraps her arms around Mark's neck and he lifts her off the ground. Why are you working on a series? She asks. I was shocked when your mum told us. No rest for the wicked Bella. What are you doing in New York? Luca decided we needed a weekend road trip and Parker was busy studying. At the mention of Parker, Mark looks to his brother for a reaction. Luca's face is cold, only smiling when Eddie turns to look at him. Luca pulls Eddie away from his brother, wrapping an arm around her waist. Eddie relaxes into Luca's hold and all thoughts of Parker disappear. The three head home to Queens via the subway and are met by the smell of roasted garlic as they enter the Moretti house. Ma invited Sienna for dinner. Mark calls to his mother from the lounge room. Eddie elbows him in the stomach. So things are going well, huh? Eddie notices Mark blush and she grins. I like her. He replies with a shrug. Have you told her? Luca questions. Yup. Mark replies. She needed to know. Maria calls the brothers in to set the table as Eddie answers the door to find Sienna Romano. Eddie. Hi Sienna, how are you? I'm great thanks. Mark didn't say you'd be here, Sienna replies, pulling Eddie in for a hug. Luca and I decided on a last-minute road trip to fill our weekend. Are you and Luca? No. Eddie says quickly. No, Luca would never see me like that, we are just friends. Eddie doesn't realize Luca hears her as he walks out from the kitchen. Luca detects sadness in her voice as she said, we are just friends. Ladies, dinner is ready, Luca says, announcing himself. Sienna, do you mind if I steal Eddie for a second? Not at all. Sienna leaves the pair in the lounge room. What's up? Eddie asks with a smile on her face. Luca steps toward her and lifts the Tiffany charm from its place under her collar. As he lifts it, his fingers brush Eddie's skin, leaving a burning, tingly trail. Thank you, Luca says, brushing a piece of Eddie's hair behind her ear. For what? Coming with me. I know you'd rather be with Parker, but ... Well, I'm glad you came. Luke, are you okay? Why do you ask? Well, I have been living with you for almost 3 years and I have never seen you shake. Eddie says, grabbing his hand. Tell me what's wrong. Nothing, Cara, I'm fine. That's a lie, Eddie mutters. You know you can tell me anything, right? Luca nods in response as his mum calls them into the dining room. Eddie kisses his cheek before heading in. When she leaves the room, Luca releases the breath he had been holding and shakes his head. I don't know if I can tell you this, Ed. Where else did you explore today? Parker asks. Eddie has been talking with him for only 20 minutes, but it feels awkward and forced. She thanks God that they aren't on FaceTime. Just Fifth Avenue and Wall Street mainly. We will probably hit Central Park and Times Square tomorrow. Luca hates the touristy places, but I always have to have a carriage ride. How much was that necklace he bought you? Eddie cringes at his question. She knows it is a sore point. The necklace was almost $200 more than she would ever even consider spending on one item, but there was no stopping Luca. Parker, it doesn't matter. It is my early Christmas present, that is all. What did he buy his girlfriend? Luca broke up with Kate after dinner that night. Really? Yeah, that's what he told me. Look, Parker, I'm kind of tired. 4 hours in the car, roaming New York, and then a huge home-cooked meal has me wiped. Can I call you tomorrow? Of course, babe. Sweet dreams, beautiful. Good night. Eddie hangs up and places the phone on her nightstand. An awkward conversation with Parker has her wondering. He is always studying without her, even though they are majoring in the same thing. He wants more and she isn't ready to give it to him. Why, if Eddie is honest with herself, she isn't attracted to Parker. Sure, he is the logical choice, but there is no attraction there. With a sigh, Eddie drops her head onto her pillow. She is sleeping in Luca's bed, his childhood bed. She grabs her phone, quickly typing out a message. Addison, 10:34 p.m., you awake? Luciano, 10:36 p.m., yup. Addison, 10:36 p.m., come to my room. Luciano, 10:37 p.m., I think you mean my room. Addison, 10:37 p.m., Luke. Yes. Luca pushes the door open and Eddie sits bolt upright, her phone dropping onto the bed beside her. Hey, she says, patting the bed, indicating for Luca to sit. He sits down on the bed, keeping his eyes fixed on her. Hi, what's up? Will you lay with me? Eddie asks quietly, not quite as confident as she hoped. And get my balls cut off by Ma. Please, Luciano. Oh, I love it when you say my full name. Luca groans. Okay, shove over. Eddie makes room for Luca and he pulls the covers back and lays down beside her. I forgot how comfy this bed is. Luca sighs and Eddie rolls over to face him. Your mum interrupted before, when you were going to tell me what's up. Tell me. Eddie pokes Luca's side and he squirms. Don't awake the beast, Kara. I won't be afraid to tickle you. I want to help, Luke. You're my best friend. Eddie whispers and Luca smiles. He wraps his arm around Eddie and pulls her onto his chest. Instead of pushing herself off and reminding herself of Parker, Eddie snuggles into Luca. Luca pats Eddie back and places a kiss in her hair. Luca notices Eddie start to drift off to sleep and he places another kiss in her hair. After a few moments, Luca lets out a sigh. I love you, Addison Jenkins.
Chapter 16 Why Yes.
Eddie wakes up before Luca and she snuggles into his side. Things with Luca are comfortable. She has known him quite a while. He is her best friend. Eddie closes her eyes and listens to Luca's heart beating. Eddie, Luca mumbles in his sleep and Addison feels herself blush. Eddie rocks Luca softly in an effort to wake him up. Luca continues to mumble in his sleep. Most of it is incoherent until, Eddie, I love you. Addison freezes, stopping all efforts to wake him up. Her breath catches and she feels as if she may pass out. He loves me. Suddenly the bedroom door swings open and an angry Maria steps in. Maria pulls her son off the bed by his ear. Shit, Luca yells, resulting in a smack across the back of his head. Luciano Moretti, how dare you force yourself into Addison's bed? Tu sei il mio figlio una vergogna andar vestimi. My dispace mama. Luca leaves the room and Maria turns to leave with him. Eddie calls out to Maria and she faces. Addison, it was my fault. Don't be angry with Luca. I needed the company. I didn't think. It won't happen again. Eddie looks down at her hands. My son knows better. Maria says sternly, but he loves you and you are his weakness. Don't abuse that, Kara. Maria leaves the room, leaving Eddie even more confused. Does he really love me? Did you tell her? Mark asks the moment his brother enters the room. Luca lets out a defeated sigh. I did, but I don't think she heard me. Luca replies, I think she fell asleep. It is for the best anyway. She is Parker. Luca gets dressed and heads downstairs to find Eddie helping his mum in the kitchen. She is wearing her tight-ass hugging skinny jeans and a V-neck sweater. The V in the sweater is covered by an apron as Eddie and Maria bustle around the kitchen. Maria glares at her son as he enters, before nodding her head pointedly in Eddie's direction. Ma wants me to apologize. He thinks to himself. Eddie, can I talk to you for a second? Luca asks, extending his hand. Eddie nods. She wipes her hand on her apron before taking his hand in hers. Luca takes the opportunity to lead her into the lounge room. He can feel the sparks he gets from just touching her hand and wonders if she can feel the same things. I want to apologize. For what? I should have left once you were asleep last night. It was wrong for. Luke, I asked you to come. I told you Mum that. So, we are okay. Of course. Eddie stands on her toes to wraps her arms his neck and pulls him into a hug. Luca smiles at the gesture. So you said something funny in your sleep this morning. Luca's body tense. What had he said? Really? He says, trying to be casual. And what was that? Before Eddie can answer, her phone starts to ring. Eddie looks apologetically at Luca as she pulls the phone out of her pocket. Luca notices Parker's name flash across the screen as Eddie presses the phone to her ear. He hears her greet him happily and his hands ball into fists. Not wanting to hear any more, Luca walks back into the kitchen. His mum looks up expecting Eddie and Luca explains that she is on the phone. When you tell her, his mum asks in broken English, her heavy accent shining through. Tell her what, ma? Oh, stupido. You must tell her that you love her. How did you know that? Io sono tua madre. Luca laughs at his mum as his brother enters the kitchen with his father close behind. The two are arguing about the family business when Eddie walks in, pushing her phone into her pocket. Sorry, Maria. Ken. Eddie looks at the spread of food. Oh, I wasn't much help at all. Nonsense, Kara. Now everyone sit. Luca's father says grace and the five dig into a hearty breakfast. The table is full of sausage, eggs, bacon, hash browns, toast, waffles, pancakes, and pretty much every other breakfast food known to man. The brothers pile their plates high and Eddie can't help but giggle. Luca looks next to him at Eddie, giggling under her breath as she cuts into her bacon. He places his hand on her thigh and the giggles stop. He knows that she is with Parker, but Eddie makes a point of saying that he isn't her boyfriend. Luka hopes that maybe Eddie will pick him instead. Luka moves his hand up her thigh, his fingers resting between her legs. Eddie is grateful for the layer of denim separating his touch from skin, thinking she might combust. So, where are you going today? Mark asks, unaware of the trip Luka's hand is taking. Carriage ride, Central Park. Luka answers, causing Eddie to choke on her food. Kara. Luka pats Addison on the back until she is breathing normally again. The five finish eating and Eddie heads upstairs to grab her jacket. With 2 weeks to go until Christmas, it was getting cold. Eddie finds Luka waiting in the foyer for her. He smiles when he sees her. He takes her hand and the two walk toward the subway. When they arrive at Central Park, Eddie grabs Luka by the wrist. "Luke, you hate these carriage rides," she says with a confused look on her face. "But you love them," Luka replies, lifting her up into the carriage. The two ride in silence for a moment before Luka turns to Eddie. "Are you serious about Parker?" Eddie is unsure how to respond. She has been thinking about Parker a lot. The truth was no, she wasn't serious about Parker. In fact, she'd be lying if she said was even attracted to him. It wasn't fair on him. She knew that. She had to tell him. "I don't know," she says with a shrug. "What did I say in my sleep this morning, Ed?" Eddie sighs deeply. You said you loved me," she says quietly, "but you were asleep, so." "I do love you, Eddie," Luka says, cutting her off. He moves to kiss her, but Eddie pulls back. "Luka, we can't. I'm still with Parker. This isn't fair on him." "Do you love me, Eddie?" Luka asks, and Eddie's breathing stops. "Why, yes," she chokes out, and Luka smiles. He wraps his arms around her shoulders and the two enjoy the rest of the ride.
Chapter 17 Man Whore.
"We will be home in about an hour. Are you free?" Eddie asks Parker. They decided to go back to campus a little earlier than planned. It is about 7 on Sunday evening. After an early dinner with the Morettis and the Romanos, Luka and Eddie began the trip back to Boston. "I have a lot of studying to do, Eddie. We haven't seen each other the whole weekend, Parker. And how is it you have all this studying and I don't? We are taking the same courses." "I'm sorry, Eddie. I'll make it up to you tomorrow night. I'll even pick you up for class tomorrow." "Whatever." Eddie forcefully hangs up her phone and looks over at Luka to see him laughing. "What the hell is so funny?" "I'm sorry, Ed. I hate the guy." "Shut up. I just don't get what I did wrong. He has sort of been avoiding me. He wasn't even that concerned when I said I was going to New York." Eddie shakes her head, trying to make sense of the situation. "Maybe it is because she trails off, stopping herself from saying anything more in front of Luka. "Because you?" Luka asks, hoping she'll continue. "I haven't slept with him," Eddie whispers. "Hey." Luka's hand finds her thigh. "If that's all he wants from you, he isn't worth it." Eddie laughs at the irony of Luka's comment. "What? You make it sound like you aren't a man whore." Eddie smirks, still laughing. "Man whore? Ed, I'm offended." An hour later, the two are driving through Boston Common. "Do you mind if we stop at Parker's?" "Are you breaking up with him?" Luka asking hopefully. "Not yet, but I want to check he is okay," Eddie says quickly. "Fine." Eddie directs Luka to Parker's frat house. "I can't believe you are with a frat guy," Luka says, shaking his head. He gets out of the car after he pulls into the parking lot. Luka comes round to the passenger side, letting Eddie out. "What are you doing? You can stay in the car. I'm not letting you go into a frat house alone," Luka says, his eyes leaving no room for negotiation. The two walk up to the front door. It opens, unlocked. Eddie starts on the stairs, knowing exactly where Parker's dorm is. A couple of the guys from the house pass her. They offer her a smile, knowing who she is. When Eddie reaches Parker's door, she tells Luka to wait outside. Without knocking, she swings the door open. Expecting to find Parker studying, it is a shock when she finds him on all fours leaning over a naked girl. "Oh my God," Eddie cries out, and Parker looks up from his conquest. "Eddie," Parker chokes out. Luka finds his way to Eddie's side, pulling her into his chest. "Kate," Luka clarifies, and the girl sits up off the bed. Eddie pushes herself away from Luka and marches towards the two naked bodies. "Eddie, so before Parker can finish his sentence, Eddie slaps him across the face. "You jerk. How long?" "What's the matter, Eddie? It isn't Parker's fault you couldn't please him." Kate sneers from the bed. "Now get out and let Parker get on with it." "Get on with what, Kate?" Luka growls. He looks over Parker, laughing at his size. "That's a bit of a downgrade, don't you think? Looks like you won't be thoroughly fucked." "How long have you been with this?" Luka spits in Parker's direction. "Thanksgiving," Parker answers, looking over at Eddie. Eddie turns to Luka, who wraps his arms around her. "Eddie, wait. Maybe we could." "Don't talk to me," Eddie snarls at him. "Ever. Are you all right, Kara?" Luka asks, poking his head in Eddie's bedroom. He finds her sitting on her bed in a tight singlet and white cotton panties and has to talk himself down. "I'm so sorry, Luka." "About what, Kara? You did nothing." "I'm sorry, my ex-girlfriend is such a whore." Eddie puts her head in her hands and breaks out in sobs. Luka sits down beside her and pulls her into his lap. Eddie is tiny and light. He rubs his hand up and down her back. Shish Kara, I got you. You're okay. What's wrong with me? Eddie sniffles. Nothing. Luca replies sternly. You are perfect, Addison. Don't let that arsehole make you think otherwise. If I'm so perfect, why did he run to Kate? Why didn't he want me? You know what makes it worse? I don't think I ever liked him. Yet I'm so upset about him cheating on me. I'm so pathetic. You never liked him. Luca clarifies. He continues running her back, and little by little her singlet starts to ride up her back. No. Eddie shakes her head into his chest. Luca's hand rests on the bare skin of her lower back and she stops. Her skin tingles under his touch and Eddie moves so she is looking Luca in the eye. I love you, Luciano, she says softly. Luca looks at her lips and then back at her eyes, asking silent permission. Eddie nods once and Luca's lips press against hers. She kisses him back, guiding her hand up into his hair. Eddie moves in Luca's lap so she is straddling him. She grinds in his lap and he groans. Oh Kara, keep doing that and you will have to fix my problem. Doing what? Eddie asks innocently. She continues to move her hips in a circle motion when Luca grabs her hips, stopping her movements. Naughty girl. Luca growls into her ear, gently nipping at her earlobe. What are you going to do? Eddie asks seductively. Surprised at her confidence, Eddie feels herself blush. Luca lifts Eddie up and throws her down into the middle of her bed. Luca slinks towards her on the bed. He sits between her legs, very close to her now drenched panties. What are you going to do, Luciano? Luca's eyes flick to Eddie's in surprise as she uses his full name. A smirk forms on his face and Eddie knows she said the right thing. Oh Kara, I'm going to take you for the first time. Luca says, his smirk still on his face. God, you are gorgeous. Luca lifts his hands to her breast, kneading them gently. His hands trail down to her panties again. Do you want it? Luca leans forward to whisper in Eddie's ear. Yes, Eddie breathes out.
Chapter 18 Last night was.
Luca wakes to find the spot next to him in bed empty. His eyes adjust to the light and he looks around for Addison. His Addison. Luca sighs deeply, reliving the events of last night. He was gentle considering it was her first time, but when they went for round 2 and 3 it appeared she liked it rough. The smell of bacon fills the room and he smiles. When he reaches the kitchen he sees Eddie in nothing but one of his t-shirts and her panties. This isn't a new sight. She would often get around the apartment like this, but it made Luca smiles knowing that last night the sexy body beneath had been his bed. Luca approaches Eddie from behind, wrapping his arms around her waist. Eddie squeals as she is lifted off the floor. Luca kisses the back of her neck and a small moan escapes her lips. Morning, he murmurs against her skin as he places her back on her feet. Eddie spins in his arms and places a kiss on her nose. Morning, when I couldn't find you I thought maybe, just hungry. Eddie cuts him off. I felt like bacon and eggs, is that okay? Perfect. How do you feel? A little sore, Eddie says, spinning back to the food. She looks back over her shoulder at Luca, but totally worth it. Last night was perfect. Eddie cuts him off again and Luca smacks her arse. It's 1 PM and the two are lying back on couch scrolling through Netflix. Eddie's tiny form is sitting in between Luca's legs, leaning back on his chest, and she uses the remote to find something worth watching. Luca traces circle on her thigh, causing her to shiver. There is a knock at the front door and Luca's hand freezes. Eddie. Parker's voice travels through the door. Eddie's body tenses and Luca lifts her off his lap. He places her on the couch, pressing a kiss to her forehead. I'll deal with him, Kara. Eddie hugs her knees as Luca stalks to the door. Luciano throws the door open, revealing a disheveled-looking Parker. Parker's eyes search the townhouse and fall on Eddie. Ed, no, you talk to me, Luca says, sternly holding Parker back with his hand. Luca has the height advantage on Parker and glares at him. This has nothing to do with you. If it concerns Addison, then it concerns me. Luca's voice is loud. Eddie looks up at Parker from the couch. Parker, you need to go, Eddie says softly. But Eddie, she told you to leave. If you so much as look in her direction I will. You can't just. Addison is mine, Luca shouts in Parker's face. Eddie is a little turned on by his possessiveness. Why yours? Realization hits Parker and he backs out of the doorway towards his car. Seizing the opportunity, Luca slams the door and walks back to the couch. He lifts Eddie up and sitting down he places her back between his legs as though nothing happened. Did you mean it? Eddie asks him softly, leaning back into his chest. Every word, Luca replies honestly, placing a kiss on her shoulder. Luciano, you need to calm down. Mark tries to calm his brother. Ed, please, tell him to calm down. Calm down. How the hell can I calm down? They are going to know. The second they walk in, Ma will know she is like magic. Luca, Eddie shouts over a rambling Luca. She walks to his side, taking his large hands in her small ones. Why can't we tell them? Why you want T2? Why not? Eddie asks with a shrug. Unless, no, not that. I just want to savor having you to myself. I have only had you 7 days. Have you been counting? Eddie smirks at him. I love you, Addison Jenkins, Luca says quietly. The two stare at each other before they are rudely interrupted by Luca's older brother. Okay, lovebirds, you guys are disgusting. Ma and Pa will be here in 20 minutes and Eddie, not that I don't love it, but you are half naked. Eddie looked down at her attire, Luca's tee and a pair of panties. Before Mark arrived announcing that his parents were on their way, Luca and Eddie has been thoroughly enjoying each other's company. Mark's eyes linger on Eddie and she feels herself blush. Luca puts a possessive arm around her waist, pulling her behind him. Fratelo attento. Luca growls a warning and Mark raises his hands in surrender. Hey, can you blame me? Eddie giggles at Mark's words, running off to her room. Once she shuts the door, Mark turns back to his brother. About time. I know, Luca say with a small shrug. Luca tidies up around the lounge room, mainly throwing anything that is lying around onto his bed. Mark lounges back on the couch, not bothered that his parents will be arriving soon. After all, it is not his house. Mark hasn't told Luca the truth about his and his parents' visit. It is to announce Mark taking over the family business. All of the family business. To the world, Dante Moretti is the CEO of a large company, but to those in the know, he is also an Italian Don, leader of the New York Italian Mafia. The family have kept it hidden from Eddie, but Luca knows that them being together means it is about time she knew the truth. Eddie strolls out of her bedroom in skinny jeans and a tight-fitted tee. Luca can't help but stare to her snug clothes. Kara, you are killing me, he says softly in her ear. He wraps his arms around her, breathing in her scent. It is slightly erotic just how good she smells. When there is a knock at the door, Luca drops his arms from around Addison. Mark laughs, heading to the door. Ready, lovers? Chapter 19. Ma knows all. Eddie strolls out of her bedroom in skinny jeans and a tight-fitted tee. Luca can't help but stare at her snug clothes. Kara, you are killing me, he says softly in her ear. He wraps his arms around her, breathing in her scent. It is slightly erotic just how good she smells. When there is a knock at the door, Luca drops his arms from around Addison. Mark laughs, heading to the door. Ready, lovers?
Chapter 19. Ma knows all.
Luca stands a good few feet away from Eddie just for good measure as his brother opens the door. He watches as his parents step so comfortably into the house. His ma wraps Marcello in her arms first before turning to Eddie and Luca. She hugs them both in turn before stepping back to look at them. O Luciano e Addison sono insieme, Mrs. Moretti says excitedly. Come fai a saperlo? Luca asks his mum, looking accusingly at his brother. Non el ho fado. Mark raises his hands in surrender. Eddie stands back, watching the Italian conversation, utterly confused. Will someone translate for me? She asks, and all heads snap to her. Luca closes the distance between them, once again placing his arms around her waist. Ma knows all, Luca says with a shrug, causing everyone to laugh. I am so happy, Mrs. Moretti says. Or mangiamo. Mr. Moretti says loudly. Now we eat. Luca whispers the translation into Eddie's ear. The five of them move to the dining room and get situated before Luca gets the lasagna from the oven. Everyone loads their plate and Dante Moretti speaks first. To Marcello, he says, raising his glass of red wine. My oldest son finally taking his place, taking over the family business. Luca looks from his father, to his mother, to his brother, but Eddie claps her hands together happily. Leaning into Mark, she hugs him. Eddie congratulates him with a kiss on the cheek. This is a little sudden, don't you think? Luca asks loudly. It is the best time, Dante answers. Your father knows best, Luciano. Am I missing something? Eddie places a hand on Luca's thigh. This a good thing, Luca. Eddie smiles at her surrogate family, who smile back. The five eat their dinner before relaxing in the lounge room. With Christmas only a few days away, Mark decides to stay in Boston, much to Luca's disgust. Eddie lies back on Luca's bed as he gets undressed. We don't have to have sex every night, Luciano. Eddie laughs at him. I know that, but why does he have to stay here? I can hear you. Mark's voice travels through the wall and Eddie laughs. Luca hops into bed and Eddie immediately cuddles into his side. Why were you so put out before at dinner? Eddie asks softly. Nothing. Don't lie to me, Luca. It is just too big of a job for Marcello. Being CEO. Yeah, I guess, but Mark will. There is more to it than that, Eddie. Our family. Luca trails off and Eddie moves so she can look him in the eye. What? Taking over from Pa means Mark will be the new leader of the Italian mob. Luca talks quickly and quietly. What? Eddie gasps. She has been with this family. In their home, she has known them for most 3 years. How could she not know? Why did no one tell me? I'm sorry, Eddie. We should have ... You should have told me. There is no we in this, Luciano. You have been lying to me. Eddie hops out of bed, quickly moving towards the door. Addison. No, I can't even look at you right now. I don't have to be a part of it, Eddie. If you don't want me to, then I don't care about the mob, Luca. You lied to me. Eddie slams the door behind her and makes the way down the hall to her old room. Eddie eventually falls to sleep in her old bed. It has been almost 2 weeks since she has slept alone and she definitely doesn't like it. Luca groans as the light shines in his window in the morning. He hardly slept, worried without Eddie by his side. He drags himself from bed, hoping to find her in the kitchen like normal, everything forgotten. Where's Ed? He is greeted by his brother's voice. Luca looks around to find Mark making Pop-Tarts for breakfast. Are you really going to do it? Luca asks his brother, ignoring the previous question. I don't have much of a choice. Dad has passed the torch. Mark replies and Luca nods. I want you to be my vice. Mark says and Luca stiffens. I heard your fight with Eddie. I know she is okay with the mob. She isn't okay with me though. I have probably ruined things with her. So, you apologize, things will look up. We agreed that not telling her was best. I lied to her. You know what trust means to her. She will probably never talk to me again. Everything will be okay. Addison spent the whole day in her room. On the odd occasion she would come out, she would find some snacks and go straight back. While it was true Luca had been part of the lie, Mark thought Eddie was being too hard on his brother. Luca goes to bed early, so Mark takes some leftover lasagna into Eddie. He slowly opens her door to find her curled up in her bed. Moving to her side, he rests a hand on her shoulder. Luke. Eddie's voice is soft and hopeful. It's me, Kara. Mark. Eddie sits up to face him. Luca wanted to give you some time. He thinks I hate him. Eddie says softly. Well, yeah. Mark offers her a smile. I was angry, but I actually get why you didn't tell me. You do, of course, but I wanted him to come and talk to me. He will, but in the meantime I bought you some dinner. Thank you, Don. Mark is fine, Kara. Mark laughs. I have asked Luca to be my vice. Are you okay with that? As long as he is happy. Eddie shrugs. Good night, Ed. Mark kisses her forehead, leaving her to her dinner. Eddie thinks about her crazy relationship with Luca. Italian mob is just the cherry on top of this nutty Sunday.
Chapter 20 Time Alone.
Another restless sleep for Eddie. She wakes to her phone buzzing. Rolling over, she looks to her nightstand. The caller ID reads Parker and she groans. She doesn't know why he is still bothering. Without another thought, she throws her phone towards the door. Still hate me then? Eddie sits bolt upright at Luca's voice. Luke. She smiles. Why are you throwing your phone? Parker was. What? Don't worry, Luciano. She says softly. I'm all yours. Even after. I love you, Luca, and nothing will change that. If you are happy, then I am happy. So you are okay with your boyfriend being in the mob. Makes you even sexier. Eddie pulls Luca down on top of her. Eddie's phone starts buzzing again in Luca's hand and he glares at it before he answers. What? I want to talk to Addison. Eddie can even hear Parker's voice through the phone. No, you talk to me. Luca yells back. Eddie is mine. I want her back. She is no one's property. Call her again and you'll regret it. Luca hangs up forcefully, throwing the phone down beside Eddie. So classes are going to suck. Eddie groans. I'll have someone go with you to your classes. You'll what? Have someone go? Why? I heard you, Luke. I didn't understand. Do you mean a bodyguard? Well, no, Luca, that is too much. I'm from the streets, I can do things myself. But, nope. Fine. Good boy. Love birds. Did you make up yet? Mark calls from the kitchen. We need to find your brother a girlfriend. Eddie laughs. Maybe then he will leave us alone. Ma has been trying for years. Luca wraps an arm around Eddie's waist as the two walk out into the kitchen. She is okay with Mafia. She loves him. What more could he ask for? Food. Mark asks and Luca sighs. God, I'd like some time alone with Eddie. My babies are early. Maria Moretti cheers as her three favorite people walk into her house. Mark is carrying his luggage and the bags of Christmas present Addison instead on, and Luca is carrying his and Edison's luggage. Maria kisses and hugs all three of them before pulling her youngest son aside. Yes, Ma. Separate bedrooms. Maria says, her accent thick. But Luca is cut of as his mother slaps him upside the head. Separate bedrooms. Eddie is a good girl. You don't make me grandchildren till you marry her. Ma. Luca groans, blocking his ears. You understand? Yes, Ma, I understand. Luca trudges out of the kitchen as the doorbell rings. Marcello, get the door. Maria shouts through the house. Ma, I'm up here. Marcello. Fine, I'm coming. Marcello pounds down the stairs, angrily stopping in front of the door. He swings it open to find Sienna. Mark. Sienna greets him with a smile and kiss on the cheek. He says with a smile. Are you going to let me in? Yeah, of course. Mark steps out of the way, allowing Sienna to enter the house. How was Boston? It was fine. Stayed with Luca and Eddie and then we drove down this morning. They are here. Yep. Mark says, popping the pea. Marcello doesn't often get nervous around girls, but with Sienna he is never really sure where he stands. So I was going to call you. Of course you were. Sienna smirks. It doesn't help that she seems to like to tease him. I was, really. I wanted to ask you out. Maybe tomorrow. No, I already have plans. Oh, tomorrow is Christmas Day, Mark. Right, yeah. Mark's face heats and he is thankfully as his brother and Eddie enter the room. Sienna. The girls hug and move to look now room to talk as Luca stares at his brother. Are you blushing? No. Mark swats at him. You are. I'm not, I'm just. Yeah. She makes me so frazzled. That's her job. I think I like her. I know you do. How much do you think she knows? Mark asks, glimpsing at the two gossip girls. She is close with our family, so I'd say everything. Damn, is it such a bad thing? Luca offers. At least she is prepared for your extracurricular activities. Maybe I shouldn't have someone. It isn't safe for Sienna, for anyone. You can't do that. Don't deny yourself love because of the unknown. Who knew you were so deep? Mark teases his brother. It is all her. Luca says, pointing to the girl in the lounge room. I love her. You're lucky she loves you back. I'm lucky she lets me love her. Mark looks at the girls and then back at his brother. His little brother is lucky to have found his person, his soulmate. Mark isn't sure about Sienna, but he knows he likes her. She is beautiful and smart, witty and kind. She can keep up, and that is important. The two brothers join their girls in the living room. Luca with Eddie, Mark with Sienna. Luca moves Eddie onto his lap and she cuddles into her chest. I love you, she whispers to him. I love you too.
Chapter 21 Yes, 1.5 years later.
I can't believe we graduate tomorrow, Eddie says, curling up on Luca's chest. I can't believe I originally thought you were a guy. Were you disappointed to have an incredibly sexy roommate? Hell no. To find out she wanted nothing to do with me. Yes, you were just such a player. Eddie hits his chest. I never played you. Luca presses a kiss into her hair. I know, you weren't clever enough to play me. Eddie laughs and Luca finds himself laughing with her. Do you think things will change when we move to New York? Luca asks after a while. Not that much. I'll miss Boston. Maybe we could move back here when we have kids. Kids? Eddie's eyes go wide. Well yeah, I want everything with you, Addison. House, love, marriage, kids. I want it all. You think about that stuff every day. How many kids are we going to have? As many as you want to pop out. Luca winks. That's gross, but accurate. You aren't talking like a doctor. That's 'cause I'm not. I've got to get through medical school first, smarty pants. Lucky you've got such a successful girlfriend to help you through and pay the bills. I'm a pretty lucky guy. Luca peppers Eddie's face with kisses. I'm lucky your brother gave me a job. Not many other engineers graduates can say they scored a spot at a top 5 company. Sparrow Industries is lucky to have you, and so am I. When we graduate tomorrow, I don't want to graduate with my best friend and girlfriend. Luca sits up, still holding on to Eddie. I want to graduate with my fiancé. Luca reaches over to the nightstand, grabbing a small red box out of the top drawer. Addison Jenkins, will you marry me? Tears form in the corners of Eddie's eyes as she nods her head. Unable to form words, she grins as Luca slips the ring on her finger.
The end. Thank you for joining me on the thrilling journey of roommates. If you enjoyed this story, please hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to hit the bell icon for upcoming stories. Share your thoughts in the comments. Your support means the world to me.